Good morning. I'm Aditi Lamba. Thank you for joining us. Early this morning, a child is dead after being shot. Just before 12:30 a.m., officials got the call of a shooting near Ross Parkway and Hillside. When they arrived, police say a 7-year-old boy had injuries to his torso. He was then taken to a hospital where he later died. Police have not yet said what led up to the shooting or if there were any arrests made.
I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't affect us to see that kind of stuff.
Storms wreaked havoc across the Midwest yesterday. With the dust settling today, it's becoming clear just how much damage was done. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jasmine Aduz. At least 8 people are dead after a pileup on I-70 near Goodland, Kansas, involving up to 71 vehicles. After more than 24 hours, both eastbound and westbound lanes of I-70 are open again. KSN's Peyton Steiner spoke to the Kansas Highway Patrol and witnesses from the scene about the impact it's had on everyone in the area. Peyton.
Jasmine, after coordinated efforts from nearly every surrounding town and county, crews are on their way to recovery from an unprecedented scene. Officials say the incident will stay with them for a very long time to come.
Not this bad. I've seen him before, but this is probably the worst I've ever seen.
Just behind the wall of dust from Friday's storms is the wreckage of nearly 100 vehicles.
More or less like being on a boat. It's like hitting a rogue wave. It just rocks the truck.
With visibility near zero, some just narrowly avoided the crash.
I didn't quite get to drive through it. It was more or less I drove up on it. After I was safely stopped, I grabbed my CB and started yelling on the radio, stop, stop, stop.
McNamara compared it to driving in whiteout conditions. For first responders, resources were stretched thin.
We certainly couldn't handle it all by ourselves. Not just one fire department can handle it, not one EMS.
Getting a call with so many injuries is something Trooper Todd Howman dreads more than anything.
Yeah, these things stay with us for the rest of our lives. So, but it's our job. We signed up for it, and we try to do it with as much empathy and professionalism as we can. And
a phone line is now open, dedicated to the families of victims and those involved. The phone prioritizes those closest to the crash and is dedicated to answering questions as soon as possible. If you are a family member or a loved one looking for answers, dial 785-827-4437. Here for you, Peyton Steiner, KSN News 3.
I'm Chris Reed in the woods above Cedar City. With the snow falling down, it doesn't seem like the time to really talk about wildfire danger. But it turns out this could be the calm before the storm.
This is typically the time of year that all the firefighters start thinking about the upcoming fire season.
Cal manages the investigations into what causes wildfires in southwest and central Utah and how to prevent them.
Even in southwest Utah, it's not so much of a fire season anymore. It is a fire year.
In fact, firefighters from Utah are already hard at work in other places of the country. Hal says he has some firefighters right now in North Carolina, and there are other firefighters from Utah and Texas and Kansas. Don't let the snow falling outside the Bureau of Land Management firefighting headquarters in Cedar City fool you. One of the driest years on record has firefighters worried about the summer ahead. A forecast just released by the National Interagency Fire Center says southwest Utah may be prone to above average number of wildfires starting in June. That's especially when the grass that will grow from current precipitation dries out. Hal said firefighters have already been working ahead through prescribed burns and proactively cutting out woods and brush before they can burn.
We'll go in there and take out all the dead and down vegetation, all the overgrown vegetation, and really try to make that a more healthy environment so we don't have the large fires.
Hal says residents in woodland areas can be proactive by making sure dry brush is cleared 30 to 200 feet away from structures.
A lot of these communities do have active local fire councils. So we encourage people to get involved in those local fire councils and see how they can be part of the solution and try to protect their own communities from wildfire.
And there's one more thing that people just driving on the highways can keep in mind.
By far, our biggest cause of human-caused wildfires is vehicles along travel corridors. We live in Southwest Utah. It's a really fire-prone environment.
From Cedar City, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Cars came and went through this Kaysville Chevron by the dozen. Some people pumped gas, while others stopped for a snack.
Have a good one.
Sunday was a workday like any other for Assistant Manager Carson Vowles.
Didn't really think that would be coming here to Kaysville.
Until he was called back to the Top Stop convenience store late that night.
Saying that the cops were on their way because someone just got shot at on the freeway. It's definitely crazy. It makes you wonder what this world's coming to.
Lieutenant Cameron Roden with Utah Highway Patrol says the roadway shooting happened between a white Jeep Cherokee and a red Ford Fusion on I-15 South near Antelope Drive in Layton.
We don't quite understand everything that happened between those vehicles to start this whole thing.
But you can see the result. Multiple bullets ripped through the Jeep and flattened 2 tires.
It not only puts the parties involved in danger, but all the public around them as well.
The driver fortunately arrived at the Kaysville gas station uninjured.
The guy seemed pretty shaken up. I mean, understandably.
Well, you should be prepared for any drive you may take. Lieutenant Roden says once you're packed up and you're out on the roads, the plan should be not to take matters into your own hands.
We all make mistakes as we're driving too, and we can't retaliate on someone who's made a mistake.
He adds that if someone is driving really recklessly, you should call 911.
Let law enforcement handle those type of situations.
Or if you need to, stop in at a gas station like this one and cool down. Because just like everyone else who pulls into the pumps,
we're all just trying to make some money and enjoy life.
Vowles says the goal is simply to get to your destination safely.
It's definitely not worth losing your life for taking someone else's.
In Kaysville, Jeremy Toms, Fox 13 News, Utah.
At Weber State University, administrators are working to figure out how to reallocate about $6.7 million. They could earn the funding back. According to the university's website, they must create a plan and move funding to areas identified for reduction based on a set of criteria focused on program performance, workforce needs, and efficiency. Last Thursday, the president of Weber State sent an email to the College of Education and the university saying they won't fill the dean's position in Moyes College and they should consider realigning academic programs in the college.
Colleges have so many great programs with like internships or apprenticeships and things like that. So I think by limiting that, I think it's really going to hurt.
Although the university has already taken steps to eliminate administrative positions, spokesperson Brian Majanya says they're still committed to training teachers and they'll still offer degrees, even if they end up in a different college. He said current students will be able to finish their programs. I talked with students on campus about the changes. Even though they're not in the education program, they said the situation creates some anxiety.
That definitely would be really scary and really sad because that's what I need. Like, I need that funding. I need the program to be able to go into that. And so if that was cut, it would really make me have to rethink a lot of my life decisions, I think.
Not knowing what's coming, it would be hard to, sit and study for finals and, go and try and register for classes for the next 2 semesters, hoping that they'll still be around and, hoping that, this degree will be around by the time I'm done.
University leaders are working with the college to envision what this could look like and how to best support the College of Education in the transition. But for now, Majanya says their mission to prepare students for the classroom will not change. In Ogden, Julia Sandor, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Developing in New Jersey, an update, and not a great one for drivers who rely on eastbound I-80 and Wharton. Crews now say repairs to the roadway will take months longer than first expected. And now a number of businesses are struggling because of this. News 4's Adam Harding's been talking to some business operators. He's live in Wharton with their stories, Adam.
And David, good afternoon to you. So let's talk about where these businesses are located that are feeling the effects of this shutdown from I-80. It's right behind us here where police have this entire area set up with detours. It is certainly confusing. Businesses nearby thought perhaps the added local traffic might mean better business. Unfortunately, though, it's been the complete opposite. Wharton's Colossal Restaurant promises great food and great service, but workers here are just hungry for customers as they struggle to fill the dining room.
It's very, very difficult. It's like no customers. They cannot come because the traffic doesn't help just for the few minutes they have for lunch. So it's no customer right now.
The restaurant just opened in August. They only had a few months to get situated before a massive sinkhole shut down the eastbound lanes of I-80, which just happens to be right next door. They've already had to let go of some employees.
I live in this town for 27 years. And, we think this is like the perfect place to start this kind of business. But now with this situation, it's really, really bad.
Tonight, frustration is mounting as New Jersey's Department of Transportation announces the eastbound lanes will likely remain closed for at least another 2 months.
If I can assure folks that it's because we want to get the job done right and safely.
Morris County Assemblywoman Ora Dunn says part of the problem is the sheer number of voids found under the highway. At first believed to be around 90, but crews have since found about twice as many, likely caused from the old mines.
It's been 24/7. The DOT crews are working around the clock to fill these holes. I hate to use the analogy, but many have, and I think it's it helps illustrate the issue. We kind of have a bit of a system of Swiss cheese. And we've got to go out there and plug those holes.
With 6 weeks of work completed already, the DOT hopes to soon create one lane of eastbound traffic on the westbound side to help offset growing traffic jams.
The commute to work used to be 20 minutes, and now it's like an hour every day, so it's pretty bad.
How challenging have these last few weeks been?
It's been pretty bad.
Mitchell Stolt commutes from Florham Park to Picatinny Arsenal. He worries the local traffic backups may soon be even worse.
The thing that's going to make it really tough is at the federal level, they've mandated that all federal employees come back to the office, and that starts at the end of this month. So the traffic is going to get even worse.
It's anything but welcome news for these restaurant workers, desperately waiting for the repairs to be finished.
It's just like we have no words because it's any help. We definitely need help. Otherwise, how we're going to survive another 2 months without customers.
And then there is this tonight. The DOT just announcing one westbound lane will be shutting down from 9 tonight until 6 tomorrow morning to create a buffer zone as work continues on the eastbound and the median in the highway area. At 6 o'clock, we'll introduce you to another business. They started offering up 80-cent coffees for the issues on I-80. They thought it would only last a few weeks. It's now going on a few months, perhaps. They've had to scrap the idea because their bottom line is hurting that much. We'll have their story ahead at 6. We're live in Wharton. I'm Adam Harding, News 4, New York.
We have some intense video to show you from Long Island where this fire tore through a home overnight. Look at those flames go. It happened in Island Park, and right now the man who lived in the home is actually still unaccounted for.
News 4's Paisy Cheng's covering this. He's got an update on the search. Paisy?
Dave and Natalie, investigators are sifting through what's left of the home right now, searching for the homeowner who may have been inside when the fire started. Flames shot through this house on Sunset Avenue in Island Park. The fire made worse by strong winds.
When they got here, the house was burning from end to end. It was fully involved. Awful weather conditions, heavy rain, fog, thunder, lightning, wind. It was a little bit of everything.
People in the neighborhood woke up to the sound of explosions. Magdalena Stovichkova was among those who raced across the street to the home.
The neighbor is a fireman from the city of DNY. He tried to get in the house to see if we could get the neighbor out. We know that one neighbor lives there. And at this point, he said the door he couldn't open. It was fire everywhere.
The fire started around 1:45 a.m. 120 firefighters from several departments battled the flames for at least 90 minutes.
Right now, we're not 100% sure if there was another person in the house or not.
Excavators were used to peel open the house as firefighters sifted through the debris. They are also looking to put out any hot spots. Neighbors are worried about the guy who lived there, described as a man in his mid-80s.
Very upsetting because, it's in our neighborhoods and affecting people, and we don't know what the cause was of the fire, and it's this is not the way to go.
Investigators from the arson squad still need to figure out how and where this fire began. We're live from Island Park tonight. Paisley Chang, News 4 New York.
Paisley, thank you.
So we should see it any second now. And there you are getting a great view of Crew 9 inside Dragon Freedom as it returns back to Earth. We are awaiting the drogue deploys. This view coming from the WB-57 high altitude plane. And there you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
You can hear the crowd here.
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
The crowd here very excited as Dragon Freedom continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
Next up, we'll stand by for the main deployment of the parachutes. The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference on your screen once they deploy, and they continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. As we mentioned, Freedom will be traveling 16 miles per hour when it splashes down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, here at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes. And as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful, healthy mains. Now awaiting visuals of splashdown.
Freedom.
We'll start to hear Commander Nick Hague.
Copy 1000.
As we heard right there, Commander Nick Hague will be calling out the altitude of the Dragon capsule from here on out. Landing in water is simpler and provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. You can see those parachutes continuing to slow the Dragon capsule down.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at
800 meters.
A live view of Crew 9, just minutes away from splashing down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Splashdown 2 minutes from now at 2:57 p.m. Pacific. We do have 4 healthy mains really doing the job there. Just breathtaking views of a calm, glass-like ocean off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Crew 9 just minutes away from splashing down.
This is really such an incredible shot. That
Copy,
was
600.
That was a live view from our recovery vessel, Megan, which is stationed a couple miles away from the splashdown site. We can see the crew there using their restraints as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago, so their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
This is a gorgeous bluebird day here that we have for the splashdown of Crew 9. It's incredible to think that the Dragon capsule just minutes ago was going over 17,000 miles per hour and now gently coasting to a soft splashdown.
200.
Copy, 200 meters. Brace for splashdown.
As you can see there on your screen, continuing to monitor progress of the Dragon spacecraft. And we're going to stand by for splashdown located in the Gulf of America off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
And SpaceX Freedom, splashdown. Good main release.
Copy, splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
It is an amazing what a ride. I see a capsule full of grins ear to ear.
And as you can see on your screen, we have visual confirmation of splashdown. Dragon Freedom has returned home and NASA astronauts.
System safety verifications are in progress. We'll report back when recovery personnel are en route.
Understand. And, we're in section 2, 4.800 landing response. And looking for your word on if it is necessary.
In the distance, we can see the recovery vessel making its way.
Copy, you're in section 2 for the environmental assessment in 4.800. That is not necessary today.
Understand. Raise advice.
So we will continue to have communications between the Corps and Nick Hague, the commander of Crew Dragon Freedom, which just splashed down 2 minutes ago off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Dragon Freedom has returned home with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sonny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbunov. They're back on Earth after approximately 17 hours of a return journey from space.
The SpaceX recovery ship and team have been waiting for Dragon's splashdown, and they will now make their way to the splashdown location. The teams have been ready and waiting about 3 nautical miles away, so it's going to take them about 30 minutes or so to make their way to
SpaceX Freedom. Pretty sure we're in stable 1.
Copy, stable 1. We see the same.
It's going to take about 30 minutes for the recovery team to make their way over to Nick, Sonny, Butch, and Alexander, who are still seated and secured inside that Dragon spacecraft there on your screen. Incredible views there of that thermal protection system, or TPS. That Dragon capsule was pristine, white color before it departed the station, and we can see how the reentry phase, the thermal protection system did its job. Now, if you're wondering what that hole, that like bucket area is, that is underneath the side hatch. That is where the main parachutes were stored. So when we saw the Dragon capsule docked at station, it looked very different. The panel that protects and covers the main parachutes, that was still intact, as well as the panels that enclose where the drogue parachutes are located. We can see those fast
Freedom.
boats.
SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in the next few minutes.
Freedom copies.
We can see those fast boats. We weren't kidding when we said they were fast. While it does take about 30 minutes for the main recovery vessel to make its way over to the capsule, these fast boats will be doing a couple of things simultaneously. A couple of them are going to be working to retrieve the parachutes that you see in the background there of this drone shot. Those parachutes will be retrieved from the ocean surface. We want to make sure we are able to pull those out. The recovery vessel there closest to the spacecraft is going to be performing some safety checks. We can see there they're using an instrument that is basically working to detect if there are any hypergolic vapors or fumes that are still residing in and or around the Draco thruster nozzles or outlets. The hypergolic fuel, which is necessary for on-orbit burns to maneuver the spacecraft. Unfortunately, those hypergolics are unable to be breathed. They are toxic, and so this team here is doing those initial safety checks to make sure that it is safe for the rest of the recovery team to approach the spacecraft. They're also checking to make sure that any residuals from the pyros are safe and are not going to cause any issues. We can see the team working their way around the spacecraft to do these these sniff tests on all of those Draco thrusters.
And as we continue to await the recovery of our Dragon spacecraft with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sunny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov inside, Dragon has autonomously completed several steps to safe itself following splashdown. We are continuing to see Dragon in what is known as stable 1 configuration. That's kind of the ideal configuration following splashdown. It's upright, and the Dragon capsule is in the right configuration for it to be hoisted into the recovery vessel Megan, which you do see a little ways off in your screen approaching. Dragon will continue to remain live on air with you through that recovery process, all the way through the point where the crew is extracted from the Dragon spacecraft. Now, if you are just joining us, the mission has gone smoothly so far. Dragon successfully splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon.
Approximately 17 hours prior to splashdown, Dragon autonomously undocked from the International Space Station, completed a series of departure burns, jettisoned its trunk section, and performed its final burn, the deorbit burn. This placed the Dragon spacecraft on a trajectory toward Tallahassee, Florida. Dragon successfully re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, followed by deployment of its parachutes to slow the spacecraft down to a gentle splashdown. We're now going to follow the
Freedom, hypergol sweeps and unfired ordnance checks are nominal. Rigging is in progress. Approximately 25 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PMC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
And so what we did just hear there was communications that those hypergol checks were complete. They didn't find any of that upon those checks, so we'll continue to move through the timeline. Next up is a process called rigging, which you see happening right now on your screen. This is when a SpaceX recovery personnel actually works to climb aboard the capsule and work through procedures ahead of lifting onto the nest of the recovery vessel Megan. We heard it's going to be about 25 minutes or so until that lift actually takes place.
Okay, Freedom, the next call will be from the SpaceX flight surgeon on Dragon Ground Private.
Understand. Thank you.
Callouts there indicating that the crew will have the opportunity to do a quick check-in with the SpaceX flight surgeon. This is standard procedure for every Dragon spacecraft when it returns to Earth. It's just an initial check-in, make sure everybody is doing okay. They will also have another check-in with the flight surgeon once they are on board that recovery vessel that you see there in the background. We can now see that SpaceX recovery team member they're on top of the Dragon spacecraft. They are going to be working to install plugs in the Draco thrusters to ensure that none of those, and to ensure that no more
That new plan now in effect, and it follows a rash of robberies and violence at the store in recent months, with officials now hoping the new rules will help keep shoppers safe.
Fox 6's Lisa Evers is live in Flatbush, Brooklyn, with reaction to this new rule. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Natasha and Steve. A lot of reaction to this for sure. Now, we are standing right in front of this Target here on Flatbush Avenue. It is actually just down the street from the McDonald's that made news last month when they started banning anyone from their restaurant under the age of 20 unless they were accompanied by an older adult. Now, Target is letting it be known that if you are under the age of 18, you are banned from the store unless you are there with an adult. And all of this is due to the tremendous disruptions due to shoppers. Now, this Target, like many of their locations, is a popular spot for residents, but when school lets out, shoppers tell us it becomes a wild and uncomfortable scene with screaming, shouting matches, and even physical fights. Signs are now posted in the windows of the Target on Flatbush Avenue at Avenue H that say all guests under the age of 18 must be accompanied by an adult. We spoke with shoppers who had mixed reactions, but mostly positive reactions. Here's what they told us.
If the kids are running around acting crazy, then they shouldn't be in there, because there's plenty of times when I'm here during the daytime and after school hours and they're just running around crazy.
I don't think it's necessarily like making it safer. I don't know. Some of the young kids can be trouble. They make trouble over here, they make trouble over there. The school kids, it's their store. I can't tell them what to do.
Now, some of the residents told us that they believe that this new policy will also help reduce the shoplifting problem, which they say has been a rampant and persistent issue here. Now, we reached out to Target's parent company and the corporate PR, but did not get a response. We're live in East Flatbush. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News. Steve and Natasha, back to you.
All right, thanks, Lisa. More breaking news. President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin holding a high-stakes phone call to discuss the future of the war in Ukraine.
Fox 8's Sharon Crowley is here. And Sharon, they spoke for hours. What came out of that call?
Yeah, very interesting development today. President Trump describing the phone conversation with Russian President Putin as, quote, good and productive. Russia has agreed to an immediate ceasefire on all energy and infrastructure, but stopped short of backing a broader 30-day pause in fighting. The call lasted almost 2 hours, and President Trump indicated it's the first step in a movement to peace. It's not yet clear, though, if Ukraine has agreed to the phased ceasefire plan. Putin also announcing the two countries are set to exchange 175 prisoners of war each. Russia will also return 23 Ukrainian soldiers. Putin says his key condition to wrap up this conflict would be to end foreign intelligence and military assistance to Ukraine.
You've had a 3-year-long, very difficult war. And of course, both sides are going to try to seek the maximum of what they can after having gone through that.
Well, Russia invaded Ukraine, you'll recall, in February of 2022. Ukraine has tried to fight back against its much larger neighbor with drone and missile strikes deep in Russian territory, including on energy facilities. The war, though, has killed or wounded hundreds of thousands of people, displaced millions, and reduced entire towns to rubble, as we've seen there. Now, the Kremlin saying tonight that Putin welcomed Trump's calls for a more expansive ceasefire and agreed to begin negotiations to further work out specific details of such an agreement. So let's hope this keeps going.
All right.
Thanks, Sharon.
Well, tonight we are also following some breaking news out of the Middle East. The ceasefire in Gaza has been shattered after Israel carried out deadly strikes against Hamas.
All right, more than 400 people have been killed in what's now the deadliest day in the region since November of 2023.
Fox 8's Michelle Ross is live in the newsroom with more. Michelle?
Natasha, Steve, in a new message from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he says this is only the beginning, which is a stark difference from what many to believe the beginning of the end of the 17-month-long war. Now, the IDF indicated it could also launch ground operations again after ordering Palestinians to evacuate to shelters in western Gaza City and Khan Yunis. Israel says it launched the airstrikes because Hamas has stalled on releasing more hostages. The Gaza Health Ministry claims more than 400 people were killed, including senior Hamas officials and Palestinian civilians. Netanyahu is defending the airstrike, saying Hamas is refusing to negotiate.
Hamas refused offer after offer to release our hostages. In the past 2 weeks, Israel did not initiate any military action in the hope that Hamas would change course. Well, that didn't happen. While Israel accepted the offer of President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, Hamas flatly refused to do so.
Hamas has not responded with military action, but accused Netanyahu of exposing Israeli hostages to, quote, an unknown fate. There are still about 24 hostages believed to be alive and being held in Gaza. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Also break.
The Trump administration's deadline for the MTA to kill congestion pricing is this Friday.
Ticking down. Both the MTA and Governor Kathy Hochul have vowed to continue with the $9 tolling plan. Those cameras definitely still on these days. The agency has filed suit saying the feds don't have the authority to stop it. Governor Hochul met with President Donald Trump at the White House last Friday to discuss several issues, including congestion pricing. However, details of that particular conversation were not made public, at least not yet. And as the toll appears to be sticking around, city officials have now determined a start date for the crackdown on obscured, damaged, or missing license plates.
In less than a month, you will be ticketed if you have a so-called ghost plate. Let's get right to Good Day's Briella Tomasetti. She has been tracking this story. She joins us live on the east side. And Briella, we can't say we didn't see this coming.
Yeah, we knew this since January, Dan and Tashani. Good morning to both of you. So the NYPD Department of Transportation officially adopted the new rules yesterday. What it essentially all means for drivers, well, keep those plates clear and visible or be subject to steep penalties. We'll break it all down for you here. Starting next month, license plates must be securely fastened, readable, and clean. Any obstruction, whether it be dirt, rust, plastic coverings, or something else that makes a plate unreadable, is prohibited. And even just parking with an obstructed plate, by the way, could land you a $50 fine. Officials say the new rules, first announced again back in January, are about public safety. They're meant to prevent drivers from evading speed cameras and tolls, including, yes, those newly implemented congestion pricing fees. The police department will also crack down on ghost plates, which are fake license plates that don't have a registered owner or valid identity. Retired NYPD detective and John Jay adjunct professor Michael Alcazar explains.
Oftentimes, criminals are using these ghost plates, these ghost vehicles to commit crimes in New York City. Not only are they evading the tolls and taking millions of dollars from, tax-paying citizens, but they're also using it for committing crimes.
The DOT says the average number of daily violations has dropped by 94% at locations with speed cameras. There were also 14% fewer traffic injuries and deaths compared to locations without cameras. Now, if you're caught with an obstructed plate more than once, be warned, repeat offenders could have their registration suspended for 90 days. All these rules taking effect April 16th. Now, if you take the subway or the bus and you don't drive, ignore me. For now, we're live here on the east side. Dan and Tashani, back to you.
All right, good advice. Briella, thank you.
Well, a brand new report shows most New Yorkers are in favor of removing the mentally ill off streets and subways in order to give them the help that they need.
And Fox 5's Anton Lewis is live in the newsroom with more on this report. And, of course, it's receiving a whole lot of reaction. Antoine.
A whole lot of reaction. Good evening to you and good evening to everyone. There's a proposal right now in Albany that centers around forced hospitalization if an individual is deemed a threat. But what some say is an aggressive step necessary to address a very serious problem. Some others say there are better options. Proposed legislation that will allow state hospitals to keep individuals who may be a danger to themselves or others is gaining support amongst New Yorkers. A recent poll commissioned by the Association for a Better New York found nearly 88% in support of involuntary treatment. And 64% say they have felt endangered while taking public transit because of the actions of someone who appeared to struggle with severe mental illness. Stephen Rubenstein is ABNY's chairman.
We were not surprised by the numbers because we had heard anecdotally that people were really concerned about their safety as well as concerned for the people struggling on the subway.
Right now, hospitals are forced to release people back on the streets, individuals who may be in need of more treatment for mental wellness. An individual can only be kept if they are deemed a danger to themselves or the public. Homeless advocates have criticized the legislation as not addressing what many feel is the root of the problem, a lack of mental health resources for those in need.
We think it goes too far because basically the intent here with respect to Hochul's proposals is to loosen up the standard by which a person can be involuntarily put into a psychiatric facility, taken off the street, out of the subway by law enforcement.
ABNY acknowledges that perspective, but still believes it's time forced hospitalization be seriously considered by state lawmakers.
I think they should all get in the room and we should hammer out something that is both compassionate for people who ride the subway and for the people who are suffering. And I think what this poll is telling you, we want them to work it out. We want them to work it out together, that we need them to.
We're asking for application of the standards that exist and development of services that will, in fact, meet people where they are and serve them.
Now, once again, when we're talking about that, with most New Yorkers in support of involuntary confinement, Albany lawmakers appear to be at odds. The state legislature has not given any endorsement to Governor Hochul's efforts at addressing the issue. Natasha?
And more developing news on the Trump administration deporting hundreds of immigrants, transferring more than 200 immigrants to El Salvador, even as a federal judge issued an order to temporarily bar these deportations. Fox 5's Antoine Lewis is live in the newsroom with the very news that continues to unfold at this hour. Antoine.
It is still unfolding, Bianca. Good afternoon, everyone. The deportations were carried out with the cooperation of El Salvadorian officials, done so under a federal law that's 3 centuries old. Now, over the weekend, hundreds of suspected immigrant gang members were deported out of the country. Now, they were put onto 2 planes, one headed to El Salvador, the other to Honduras, according to the Associated Press. A federal judge had actually blocked the deportations and ordered the planes be returned, but the White House says the planes had already left U.S. airspace. Officials say the suspects were members of the Tren de Aragua gang. The president used a wartime law from the 18th century, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, as the precedent for the deportations.
This administration is not to be believed when it claims to have any justification for what it's doing when it comes to immigration. They are circumventing our laws. They've invoked this law in order to the requirement to provide a hearing in court before they deport somebody. That is not the American way.
The NYCLU among the immigration advocates responding to this. Now, Trump officials are facing controversy with one of those recently deported over the weekend. Dr. Rasha Alloway is a 34-year-old doctor at Brown University. Her attorneys say that she was among those deported and had been granted a work visa last week. She was taken into custody at Boston's Logan International Airport. She was returning from visiting family. The doctor is a kidney transplant specialist, and an in-person hearing was scheduled for today on the issue, and that had just been postponed. But again, she was among those deported over the weekend, according to her family and her attorney. So more a little bit about the Alien Enemies Act. Now, it's a law that was passed in 1798 that allows non-citizens to be deported without the opportunity to go before an immigration court or a federal judge. Now, the law is only supposed to be used when the country, however, is at war. We're staying on top of this, but this is the very latest from the newsroom. We'll send things now back upstairs to you.
All right, Antoine, thank you so much for that.
And now to this disturbing story. Police are investigating after a man was set on fire in Times Square.
Well, police say they're looking for a suspect who knows the victim and, according to the Post, was arguing with him moments before he was set on fire. Good day's Briella Tomasetti live in Times Square. Briella, a lot of questions going on with this. You're trying to get to the bottom of the situation. What are you hearing?
Yeah, Janet Tashani, good morning. And unfortunately, the few details you just told me right now is the extent, really, of what we know about the brazen attack happening here in Times Square. We also know this, though. It took place hours before the start of the New York City Half Marathon, with thousands of runners passing by just about a block away from this crime scene.
I just came and I saw him over there. He was just kind of like on fire. Right.
Police received a 911 call just before 4 a.m. for a person on fire at 41st Street and 7th Avenue. When officers arrived, they found that 45-year-old man with injuries that are too graphic to show on TV. First responders doused the flames with a fire extinguisher. The victim suffered burns to his face and arms and was taken to New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center in stable condition. Detectives say it appears the suspect and victim knew each other and are canvassing the busy area for security camera footage with hopes of tracking him down. They also spoke with a female companion of the victim.
I'm just totally shocked.
So much is happening around here in New York. It's unbelievable.
Yesterday's attack comes 3 months after 57-year-old Debrina Kwam was set on fire and killed by a man on a Coney Island F train. That man, a Guatemalan migrant named Sebastian Zapeta, was taken into custody hours later, and he has since been charged with murder and arson. Now, getting back to this attack here in Times Square, the New York Post is reporting that the victim and the suspect were, arguing when suddenly that suspect pulled a flammable liquid from a nearby food cart and doused the victim in it before using a lighter to ignite him in flames. Police would not confirm that right now with us, but we're still waiting for more information. For now, we're live here in Times Square. Dana Tashani, back to you.
Demonstrations are taking place here and across the country following the arrest of the pro-Palestinian activist and former Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil. Let's get right out to Stephanie Bertini live in Times Square with more on what these demonstrators have been calling for all week. Stephanie.
Hey, Richard, we've seen several protests throughout the week ever since Mahmoud Khalil was taken into custody in connection with those protests on Columbia campus last spring, those pro-Palestinian protests. Now, the protest we saw today here in Manhattan coincides with demonstrations across the nation. All of this coming as federal agents took a former Columbia student and Palestinian woman into custody. Officials say she overstayed her visa and was also part of those protests last spring. That development came just days after Khalil was picked up at his university-owned apartment, while those in support of him are calling this wrong because he is a lawful U.S. resident and free speech is something people are talking about. Federal officials have called him a threat to national security. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he revoked Khalil's permission to be in the U.S. because of his role in the pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia, saying they had riled up anti-Jewish sentiment and amounted to support for Hamas. Here's what a few of the protesters had to say today. You can see we were in the thick of it. We're talking about the arrest of 2 Columbia students. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's totally ridiculous.
What are your thoughts on how the current administration is handling immigration overall?
I think they're trying to instill fear and divide people.
And we're learning that all of this is, in fact, instilling fear, specifically amongst international Columbia students. Meantime, in terms of the protests here, Richard, the NYPD was here in full force. And as far as we know, everything remained peaceful. Back to you inside.
That's good news. Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, we want to go back to that breaking news happening in Southwest Miami-Dade. That's where grass fire is causing major road closures.
NBC6's Laura Rodriguez is stuck in that traffic. She got out of her vehicle and she's joining us live now with more. And what does it look like out there right now? Because we see the smoke behind you.
Yeah, so we made it to US 1 and 352nd Street. This is just where the road merges, where you can take Cardstown Road. I'm just a few feet away from there. You can see the sign there that says Cardstown Road is closed. And US 1 is also closed in both directions. And once you reach this area far south, it is bumper to bumper here. You can see traffic is basically at a standstill. So first recommendation, if you are headed down to the Keys right now, is definitely not the time. Turn around and head back north because traffic is simply just not moving down here. There is no way to get into the Florida Keys at this time. Over my shoulder here, you can see this fire burning right now. The Florida Forest Service is telling me that there are 3,500 acres burned, 20% contained right now. No structures are threatened at this time. And by the way, the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue is telling us that the reason US 1 northbound and southbound is closed is to allow units to gain access to additional water sources. The Florida Forest Service also telling me this fire is just moving very, very fast. It's a wet area here, so equipment can get stuck and it can be very challenging for them to work in these conditions. There are about 16 Florida Forest Service personnel on scene along with the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue also saying crews are on scene working to control this fire. There are no reported injuries at this time. But again, the most important thing for you to note right now is that if you are headed to the Florida Keys, it is best to turn around and head back north. We are in the Florida City area where US 1 merges, and it's about to merge where you can take Cardstown Road. You can see traffic bumper to bumper moving very, very slowly. So avoid this area if you can. Again, the last update here for this wildfire. The fire is 3,500 acres at this time, and right now it is only 20% contained. Crews with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and the Florida Forest Service working hard to put that fire out right now. Reporting live in Florida City, I'm Laura Rodriguez, NBC6 News.
Tonight, a federal judge is weighing whether the Trump administration ignored his order regarding the deportation of hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members. And new information now from officials that those deported may have been charged with the crimes, but not necessarily convicted.
NBC6 politics reporter Hatzel Vela is live now to explain the back and forth. Hatzel.
Joel, Jackie, that hearing before a federal judge is happening as we speak right now at 5 p.m. He wants to know if the White House disobeyed his orders. But first, hear from a family in Venezuela wondering why their loved ones was sent to El Salvador when they claim he does not have a criminal record.
Este chamo que está aquí se llama Francisco Javier García Cacique.
Francisco is his name. They say he's part of the group of hundreds of Venezuelans the Trump administration alleges are gang members who were deported to El Salvador over the weekend.
Mi hermano es uno de los inmigrantes.
His brother, he says, does not have a criminal record in Venezuela or the United States.
Se les violó su derecho.
They argue his rights are being violated as he was told he would be deported to Venezuela, not El Salvador.
I can tell you this, these were bad people.
The president is claiming authority to do this, citing the Alien Enemies Act from 1798, which has only been used in times of war.
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people.
So now the White House is locked in a fight with the courts. A federal judge quickly blocked the move, ordering the deportation flights back to the U.S., but they did not return. The Trump administration says it did not defy a court order. The administration appealed the judge's ruling, arguing it was issued after the planes had left U.S. territory.
I believe that this could be the beginning of a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional attorney Joseph Maloof says the country should be deeply concerned about what's going on here.
So now you have somebody who's allegedly breaking the law. He's in charge of enforcing the same law. That is a conflict, and that is a crisis at a constitutional level.
During the back and forth, the White House has not identified those deported or provided proof of their crimes, a violation, critics say, of the 14th Amendment.
And many people who are being picked up may or may not be members of the gang, may or may not have committed a crime. And that is why we have adjudications to determine what the person has done, who has done it, and what the punishment should be.
This afternoon, the White House weighed in on this.
Customs and Border Patrol and ICE and the Department of Homeland Security are sure about the identities of the individuals who were on these planes and the threat that they pose to our homeland.
And so today, the White House confirmed U.S. taxpayers are paying El Salvador about $6 million to house the 261 people who were deported. What's interesting here is that of the 261 people deported, most of them, 101, were deported over regular immigration proceedings. And those accused of crimes may not have been convicted. Reporting in the newsroom, Hatzel Vela, NBC 6 News.
Hatzel. All right, welcome back. Well, when school fights happen, usually the kids involved face some kind of school-based discipline.
But a fight last week in Fort Lauderdale ended with 2 students being charged as adults and taken to jail. And that's where we find Ari Adzer with this story. Ari, what happened here?
Well, Jackie, usually school fights are students versus students. This one was 2 students allegedly assaulting a substitute PE teacher. It happened Thursday afternoon at the end of the day at Dillard High School, right at dismissal time. And police took the 2 students who were allegedly involved and booked them here into the Broward County Jail. They have since bonded out. Here's what happened.
It was an ugly scene. Students pummeling the substitute teacher, security personnel doing their best to break it up as quickly as possible, and then 2 seniors were sent to jail. The lawyer representing one of the young men asked the judge to lower the bond amount.
But he is on track to graduate from high school. Now his mom is going to be the one that posts his bond. She works at Wingstop. She doesn't have the financial resources to post a $15,000 bond.
Counsel, he and another individual, without any provocation, walked up and started punching a teacher in the face, beating him. He's a danger to the community. $15,000 bond. Have a good day.
The arrest report says the 2 students launched a synchronized physical attack against the teacher. One student who witnessed the fight said the teacher had a history of saying challenging things to students.
I just seen like
the guy, the teacher, he was talking to one of the students, and then he was like, "What you gonna do about it now?" And then them boys just started fighting. I guess what happened was, like, the teacher was talking about them, and they didn't really appreciate it, and then they just started fading.
So you think the teacher said something to provoke it?
Yeah, he most def.
Now, obviously, his account contradicts what Fort Lauderdale police said happened in this incident, which is that to them, they said that the two students went ahead and provoked the violence without any provocation from the teacher at all. So Broward County Public Schools sent us a statement saying that besides the criminal charges, these young men are facing school disciplinary action as well, which is likely to be expelled from Dillard High School. And also, they said they are investigating this entire incident, including potentially the actions of the substitute teacher in this particular incident. We're live in Fort Lauderdale. Ari Odzer, NBC6 News.
Adam, thank you. Take a look at this video. It shows an American Airlines plane that caught fire at the Denver International Airport. Other video right here shows passengers standing on a wing as smoke pours out of that plane. We're told the plane departed from Colorado Springs bound for Dallas-Fort Worth when it was diverted to Denver. The FAA says that the engine caught fire after landing after they experienced an engine-related issue. The Denver Fire Department says that everyone got off safely and at least 12 people had to be taken to the hospital for minor injuries. The FAA says that they will be leading this investigation.
Following Saturday night storms, the folks here in Sipsey and Walker County have been very busy cleaning up. The National Weather Service also busy out surveying this damage today to give us a conclusion on exactly how strong this tornado was. Earlier, we caught up with them to walk us through that process on exactly how they determine the strength of this tornado.
We actually look at the radar data. We go back and look at the radar from Saturday. We look at high-resolution satellite imagery. We also look at drone information. A lot of people put drones up. I haven't heard any this morning, but the other day I was out and I heard a lot of people had drones up. So we look at that data as well. We also have boots on the ground. We actually walk the track, we talk to folks, and we actually really get down and look at the intensity of the damage right on the ground. And we go back as a team and we talk about it and we come up with a consensus of the damage. And we actually look at the actual foundations. We want to determine, how well the actual structure itself was built. And we actually will talk to the homeowner as well and get a little bit more information from them because it's important to get a little bit more background on the structures to come up with a rating.
Now, this isn't the most intense damage that occurred across central Alabama from Saturday night storms, but still intense enough that it will take the National Weather Service just about all day to survey this storm path alone. And there are still more to follow up with. Hopefully, here in a couple of days, we will have a compiled list of the tornadoes and those ratings from the storms that occurred across the region on Saturday. Reporting in Sipsey, I'm Storm Team Meteorologist Jacob Woods.
Let's check in now with Storm Team. Now, the Alabama EMA, Jim Stepkovich, the meteorologist there, just told us that Alabama had at least 7 confirmed tornadoes, possibly more. They hit over the weekend, and one of them was an EF1 that destroyed homes and businesses, even this church in Calera. National Weather Service says the winds there reached up to 90 miles per hour. And joining us this morning, Calera Police Chief David Heitch. David, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys doing the story.
You actually saw the tornado. Describe what you saw and when you realized that this was bad.
Well, I was outside, and the thing that I noticed was that the rain, instead of coming down, started moving in a circular motion, and then saw a bright green flash, which I think turned out to be a transformer. It was pretty rapid. It was through pretty quickly. And then, in the aftermath, you have no idea what kind of damage was done. So I checked back with our dispatch, and then we start getting calls about damage not long after that.
What about injuries? Did you run across a lot of people who needed medical treatment?
No, not a lot at all. At first, us along with the fire department, started the search and rescue, and the trailer that I think we're going to talk about here in a minute was one of the ones I searched, and we found didn't find any injured humans. Luckily, some of the trailers had been evacuated and people had gone to shelters. We had opened additional shelters because of the severity of this, and 2 of our schools were kind enough to open their doors to us as shelters, and they were pretty full. There were a lot of people that took advantage of that, which I think probably saved people from getting killed or injured.
No doubt. All right, we talked with a man who lost his mobile home you just mentioned, Tim Striegel. He and his daughter left just minutes before that storm hit. Here's what he told us this weekend.
I would have been in that bedroom playing with my Xbox when it hit.
And thankfully, he was not. You, Chief, ended up helping him out along with his daughter. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, that we weren't expecting that. We're just going from location to location trying to rescue people. And once you go to a house like his trailer, I searched it myself and we found his dog trapped. And once you finish with that and you move on, you don't really think about those people again. I don't. You should, I guess. But we found out that later an officer that was actually helping us out from Vestavia found Tim and his daughter and their animals just standing outside, and there were more storms coming. So the Vestavia officer brought them to our police department, and we had to figure out what to do. So this was late. I don't know, maybe midnight, 1 a.m. I'm not sure. But we started making calls trying to find a place for them to shelter. They were exhausted and hungry, so we couldn't come up with anything. We couldn't come up with a place for that night. So we made them as comfortable as we could at the police department and got them something to eat. It was a sad situation. I think that's the first time we've ever had a cat and a dog in our jail, but they behaved very well.
That is good to know. And Chief, Tim said that his faith in humanity is restored, and certainly what you and your department did is one of the reasons. We appreciate you, Chief David Heitch from Calera. Thank you for joining us. Our hearts are with you all.
Thank you.
Well, it appears the 8-year, $8 billion renovation project at LaGuardia Airport has paid off. Today, Forbes Travel Guide presented LaGuardia with its 2024 Best U.S. Airport Award. And that's partially thanks to the transformation of Delta's new Terminal C. Eyewitness News reporter Lindsay Tuckman has more on the airport's prestigious award and its recently completed terminal.
An average of 60,000 people fly through LaGuardia Airport every day. And while it looks like this now, it wasn't that long ago that it looked like this.
I would never fly out of LaGuardia before it changed. I live in Harlem, so LaGuardia is always like the preferred airport to go to, just stunk to come to because it was awful.
From awful to awesome, today, LaGuardia Airport and the Port Authority accepted Forbes Travel Guide's Verified Air Travel Award for Best Airport in the U.S. in 2024.
We are gratified that LaGuardia has earned this prestigious award.
Queensboro President Donovan Richards says it's a true transformation.
We went from the worst to the first. We are proud of the newly redesigned and reimagined airport.
This all comes after an $8 billion renovation project that began in 2016. Delta Airlines showcasing its now complete state-of-the-art Terminal C, with its final gates completed late last year, and an outdoor sky deck set to open this week.
While being inside a beautiful terminal is certainly nice, at the end of the day, for most flyers, what happens outside the terminal is more important.
When we first started the design of this new terminal, we focused on the airfield because LaGuardia was notorious for the delays getting on and off the runway, right? So you can't have a beautiful new building with an efficient operation.
So what comes next? About 12 miles south, the $19 billion renovation of JFK Airport, already underway. A major undertaking that the Port Authority hopes will be winning awards just like LaGuardia in the years to come. In Queens, Lindsay Tuckman, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Police are looking for 2 men accused of robbing a clothing store in Washington Heights. Their weapon of choice? Pepper spray. The ordeal left employees coughing with burning eyes. Eyewitness News reporter Shantae Land spoke with the manager, and she's live in Washington Heights with more. Shantae?
Sandra, I did speak with the manager today, and she pretty much said her eyes were burning, as you just described. They sprayed it on the floor, and from the floor, as they distracted everyone, they grabbed all of the clothes off of this table and made a mad dash out the front door. A store robbery in Washington Heights caught on camera, but it's how it happened by these 2 men that's leaving customers and staff on edge.
That's pretty scary. You don't know what they come in here with.
Watch as this man in a black coat quickly turns and sprays chemicals on the ground.
It was here. He sprayed some over here. right here.
It happened inside Snipes Sports Apparel and Sneaker Store on West 181st Street and Wadsworth Avenue. Manager Rangeli Richardson was inside the store at the time.
As soon as I came, I got over here like midway and I couldn't even breathe.
Customers seen walking in immediately coughing as Richardson says the thieves then grabbed a pile of clothes at the display table and made their getaway. The thief doing a quick spin before flashing a gun to the employee to stop her from stopping him.
He was like, oh, you don't want this. You don't want to lose your life. So, obviously nobody wants to lose their life over a job.
NYPD later realizing the chemical substance was likely pepper spray.
Coming in the store and knowing that happened, it's crazy.
Usually they just come in and then they just run out. But that was like the most they've done, pepper spray and then, pull out a gun.
Although the theft happened on February 19th, the brazen robbers are still on the loose. Police hope this newly released surveillance video of the pair will help identify and arrest them.
This was nothing new to me, honestly. Worse had happened to me before, so I was just worried about the staff because, it was a first experience for them, and I was just worried about them and their well-being.
And if you recognize any of those two men in those videos, you're asked to call police. Crime Stoppers is offering a reward. Live in Washington Heights, Shantae Lands, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
We're going to begin with the end of that ceasefire in Gaza. Israeli forces launched intense aerial assaults across the Gaza Strip overnight, breaking the temporary truce with Hamas. And in an address a short time ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised this is just the beginning.
Gazan officials say those attacks killed more than 400 people, making it one of the deadliest days in Gaza since the war began. The two sides were supposed to be holding talks on the second phase of the ceasefire, which would end the war and free more hostages. And that includes Tenafly, New Jersey native Edan Alexander, the final living American hostage. The question is, what happens next?
Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg live in the Financial District with more. Lauren?
Yeah, Sandra and David, that fragile ceasefire, which was reached on January 19th, lasted just shy of 2 months. And it seems that the assault by Israel will now continue. Hearing from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu late this afternoon that Israel will keep fighting to achieve all of the war's objectives.
The Israeli airstrikes came overnight targeting Hamas in Gaza. The assault effectively ends the first phase of the ceasefire that saw the return of 36 hostages in exchange for the release of 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was frustrated by the lack of progress in the next round of negotiations. He spoke this afternoon.
To those who criticize Israel, I ask, what would you do if terrorists murdered and kidnapped your children? You would do what we are doing. In the face of pure evil, free societies have no choice but to fight.
According to the Gazan health officials, the strikes left more than 400 dead, including 5 members of Hamas's leadership, and more than 500 injured.
I woke up to the sounds of explosions and fire, so we went out and came here after the ambulances to see that everything was charred and 4 bodies were burned.
And in Israel, there are fears that the remaining hostages will be injured or won't return alive. Some are protesting the Israeli government's offensive.
I ask Hamas, release the hostages. And secondly, I say to Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu, you cannot achieve peace by this method of killing more babies.
Israel had consulted with the Trump administration prior to the airstrikes. President Trump has also called for Hamas to turn over the hostages or face consequences. 24 of the remaining hostages are presumed to be alive. The hostages were taken during the Hamas attack on October 7th in 2023.
And there's also growing concern about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza now that aid has been blocked once again. Meanwhile, pro-Palestinian protests are planned for here in Manhattan later today and for tomorrow down here in the Financial District outside 40 Wall Street, which is a Trump building. We're live in Lower Manhattan. Lauren Glassberg, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
An important reminder from New York City health officials to cat owners about bird flu-related food recall. The brand Savage Pet is recalling large and small chicken boxes over bird flu concerns. Take note, the boxes were distributed to retailers here in New York. And over the past couple of months, health officials say 2 cats that had died after eating the food tested positive for the virus. And now a 3rd cat is also suspected of dying the same way.
Tonight's developments out of the Middle East, frightening for so many people. We know so many lives were changed after the October 7th terror attack in 2023, especially those who were at that Nova Music Festival.
And many didn't make it out. But for those that survived, it has changed their lives forever. One man who was there at the festival has now opened up a restaurant in Manhattan, which he says is part of the healing process from that day.
He shared his story with Eyewitness News reporter Lucy Yang.
This is Tabunia in Chelsea.
We fold it like that, and then 1, 2, and become 3.
Named after the Middle Eastern Tabun oven.
Very authentic. It's fantastic. Honestly, the za'atar is amazing. The spice and the olive oil.
40-year-old Raif Rashid is an engineer by training, a restaurateur, you could say, by fate. On October 7th, 2023, he was at the Nova Music Festival helping his brother at a food stall. Suddenly, laughter turned to screams, dancing turned to bloodshed.
You had a hole in your pants from a bullet.
Yes.
But it didn't touch you.
Yes.
Thankfully, Raif and his brother survived. Tragically, many did not. Raif is a Druze Israeli. That means he is not Jewish nor Muslim. He speaks Arabic, Hebrew, and English.
This is so good. This is my mom recipe.
He also speaks the universal language of food, and that has become his mission, to offer peace through the communion of shared dining.
I invite all the people to come try some food. And
You don't want to talk politics. You want to talk food.
So this is my first time having Druze food, and it looks fabulous. I'm going to try this.
What is your favorite?
I have a sweet tooth. I have a sweet tooth. This is so amazing. It's fabulous. Fabulous. Raif has a Lebanese partner, a Syrian employee, and customers of every faith and background. He points out it's really not that hard.
Why not all the world like that?
Actually, I'll definitely be back. It was really good.
The restaurant should get its kosher designation soon, but they're still waiting for the city to grant permission to turn on the Tabun oven. Until then, Raif will continue to build bridges, one Druze dish at a time. In Chelsea, Lucy Yang, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Police in New Jersey tonight investigating a shootout that left 4 people wounded. One of them was critically injured. And what began as a dispute inside developed into chaos and gun violence outside in a parking lot. New Jersey reporter Tony Yates live this evening with our lead story in Verona. Tony?
Yeah, a shootout happening literally yards away from homes, which neighbors say it was a quiet street before this party venue moved in months ago.
And I looked out my window and I saw a huge crowd come flooding out from the side of that building, screaming like you could not believe all of them fighting.
Some neighbors along Park Place tell us they have gotten used to the on-again, off-again blaring music or loud crowds leaving Palm Royale whenever an event taking place inside wraps up. But Saturday night's shooting blew them away, seeing the fight, hearing the gunfire just yards from their homes.
I heard all these fireworks going off, and then they stopped, and I thought, okay, well, they're done with their fireworks. And then next thing I knew, the street was just full of police, ambulances, party goers that were, terrified that had come out of the party.
But you're saying fireworks and it wasn't.
Oh gosh, no, it was 36 gunshots.
Apparently, the argument began inside, escalating, and then spilling into municipal parking lot number 1, which is adjacent to the venue run by Palmetto Venues.
We stood out here and we watched it all happen, and as they wheeled them out, the ambulances lined up in front of our homes. and taking them away one after the other.
In all, 4 people shot. 2 men rushed to the hospital by ambulances. A man and a woman drove themselves to the hospital. All of them are expected to survive, but neighbors aren't sure they want this business to survive unless more protocols are put into place to keep the troublemakers out.
Everybody's running, the gamut. They're blaming it on the venue. Other people say it's not the venue's fault.
What I want is for the place not to be there anymore, to go somewhere else, because since they came, it's been an upheaval on the street.
And residents do have an opportunity to speak up tonight. There is a regularly scheduled town hall meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. Many told us today that they will be there. In the meantime, no word yet on what started that altercation. For now, we're live here in Verona, New Jersey. Tony Yates, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And we begin with breaking news. Somebody stabbed a teenager in his back near a school on Manhattan's West Side. Police are on the scene right now.
Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon gathering the latest. So, Sonia, what do we know here?
Well, Mike, we're still getting some details, but we know that one male teenager is in the hospital and another is in police custody. Police have set up a crime scene here on 56th and 10th, and we've seen them talking to witnesses. This is a block with several high schools, and this happened right around dismissal time. The victim is 18 years old. He has a stab wound to the back. No word on his exact condition or exactly what he was stabbed with or what this was over. This does not appear to be a random attack, though. It appears these were 2 teens who had some sort of altercation. NYPD school safety agents were outside during that dismissal time. They saw the student who was in distress and they came over to help him. It is not clear yet which of these schools this victim and suspect attended. We're waiting for an update on that victim's condition and any charges for the young man who was taken into custody. That's the very latest. We're live in Hell's Kitchen. Sonia Rincon, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And we have breaking news right now in New Jersey, where police are at New Milford High School because of a stabbing investigation. You're looking at live pictures right now. The Bergen County Prosecutor's Office is calling this an attempted homicide. They say officers responded to a large fight near Madison Plaza, which is right by the school. One person was stabbed and is in critical condition at the hospital. The suspect or suspects took off.
A gun battle outside a party venue in Verona, New Jersey left 4 people hurt. Bullet markers indicate a barrage of at least 36 shots. Police say a fight erupted about 11 o'clock last night as people left a gathering. First responders rushed 2 men with gunshot wounds to the hospital. A third man and a woman went to the hospital on their own before police arrived. Police have no arrests at the moment. News in Queens. 2 people found dead inside an apartment. Detectives on the scene now investigating how an 88-year-old woman and 57-year-old man ended up dead. Hello, I'm Joe Torres.
And I'm Tanya Rivero. We begin with a gruesome discovery in Middle Village, Queens. An 88-year-old woman and a 57-year-old man were discovered dead inside a home on 80th Street this afternoon. Detectives say a firearm was recovered from the scene.
Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlos spoke to neighbors who knew the victims for years. He joins us from the scene. Anthony.
Joe, Tanya, that's right. Neighbors are shocked and they are disturbed. That 57-year-old man, they say specifically, was always friendly, always willing to have a conversation. So they are disturbed by all of this. It is very much an ongoing investigation as police try to piece together exactly what led up to what truly was a horrific scene inside of this home here on a quiet tree-lined block. This is on 80th Street near 58th Avenue in Middle Village, where police stay posted at the door. Cops responded just after 1 this afternoon. That 57-year-old man was found dead inside the home with a gunshot wound to the head. The body of an 88-year-old woman was also found deceased, but police say there were no immediate signs of trauma. Family members and neighbors gathered on the front lawn, shocked and devastated by the gruesome discovery. Police say a gun was recovered at the scene. Authorities have not released any information on how the 57-year-old man and 88-year-old woman are related, but neighbors tell us the man had lived there with his elderly mother for at least 17 years. Neighbors say he was always taking care of her, bringing her to doctor's appointments. They describe him as attentive and an affectionate son and very friendly.
We just knew him. He was the one that would, kind of walk up and down the block, and he always loved the conversation. And I talked to him many times throughout the years. So, yeah, just very, very odd and shocking to all of a sudden, see all of this unfold right now. Yeah.
Another live look here at this home where, again, that discovery was made. Those two bodies were found. Police keeping a very close eye on it. The medical examiner is also here. It will work to determine, of course, the causes of death in this situation. It is notable to point out another neighbor who spoke to us off camera tells us she noticed a change in the 57-year-old man's demeanor over the last couple of days, seeming to be a lot less friendly. We did approach family members, and understandably at this point, they are not in the mood to speak. For now, we're live in Middle Village. Anthony Carlo, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Tonight are investigating a deadly stabbing right by the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. A man was stabbed at around 9 tonight at Flatbush and Atlantic Avenues in Park Slope. Cops arrived on the scene to find the victim with multiple stab wounds to his abdomen. He was rushed to the hospital where he died from his injuries. Police believe he was attacked by a group of people, but no word on a motive. So far, there have been no arrests.
Also new at noon, nearly 2 years after an 8-year-old girl is shot and killed by an 11-year-old at a babysitter's home in Fayetteville, a lawsuit is filed. The family of 8-year-old Genesis Dockery, who was shot and killed, is now suing the babysitter and the owner of the gun. Monique John joins us live with more on this case. Monique, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, in this wrongful death lawsuit, the lawyers for the Dockery family allege that the babysitter, Crystal Michael, failed to ensure the health and safety of Genesis while she was in her care. The lawsuit also alleges that Thomas Michael, the owner of the gun and the grandfather of the 11-year-old involved in the incident, failed to ensure the security of that weapon that the boy was ultimately able to access and ultimately did fire the shots that hit and killed Genesis. The family is suing for expenses they racked up in hospitalization, Genesis's burial, and for pain and suffering. This lawsuit comes just days after lawmakers proposed a bill to the state legislature in Dockery's name, punishing gun owners who failed to report lost or stolen firearms if that firearm is used to commit a crime. The Dockery family says that the babysitter was a longtime friend of theirs and had cared for Genesis and her young sister multiple times. We did hear from Vaughn Dockery, Genesis's father, during this press conference. Let's go back to hearing what he had to say.
Our family has been changed forever by a tragedy that was very well preventable. Irresponsibility, negligence. We stand here today to own up to our human responsibility, our parental responsibility, to ask for justice and transparency for the life, the light, and the advocacy of Genesis Dockery.
While the lawyer for the Dockery says that the 11-year-old in this incident was at one point in custody and found responsible for the situation, he's since been released. Back to you.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
The full lineup is out for Lollapalooza.
And the ticket pre-sale begins this Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. Among the year's headliners, Olivia Rodrigo, Tyler, the Creator, Sabrina Carpenter, Luke Combs, Korn, there's a throwback.
Yeah.
And as teased yesterday, Doechii. Additional performers include A$AP Rocky, Gracie Abrams, Martin Garrix, and Cage the Elephant.
Cool.
Cage the Elephant?
Mm-hmm.
What won't they think of next? The schedule will come out at a later date. Lollapalooza is July 31st to August 3rd in Grant Park. And I'm sure someone will at me about not knowing about the elephant.
Oh, stop.
It's the elephant in the room.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
That teacher was arrested during a traffic stop yesterday, more than a year after the alleged sexual assault, which prosecutors say came to light after sexually explicit text messages were discovered.
We are heartbroken for the victim and also for the hundreds of students, staff, and family who trusted this teacher and feel betrayed by this terrible situation.
This meeting of the Community High School District 99 School Board comes hours after Downers Grove South notified families of a teacher's arrest. 30-year-old Christina Formella, a special services teacher and boys and girls soccer coach, has been charged with aggravated criminal sexual assault and abuse of a then 15-year-old male student, prosecutors say, in December 2023 during a tutoring session before school.
Our top focus now is to support the victim and their family and to ensure the well-being and safety of all of our students.
Though the alleged assault happened 15 months ago, authorities say the student and his mother reported the incident to police this past Saturday, after prosecutors say that mother bought her son a new iPhone, and after signing into iCloud, discovered a sexually explicit text thread. The exchanges, too graphic for us to show, are detailed in this petition filed by DuPage County prosecutors that sought pretrial detention for Formella, that request denied by a judge. School officials say they're now working to contact families of other students who had direct contact with Formella.
We will continue to address this situation with urgency and transparency. We are committed to protecting our students and ensuring that they feel safe.
Formella, who has worked for Downers Grove South since 2020, has been placed on administrative leave with pay and did not return our message requesting comment. A judge ordered her to stay away from the school and have no contact with anyone under 18.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
Authorities are investigating the death of Gene Hackman and his wife, and they're offering a new timeline about when she died. Officials now say Betsy called a medical service the morning after she was previously thought to have died. That service says it returned her call twice, but never heard back. Hackman is believed to have died a week later from advanced heart disease with Alzheimer's complications. The timeline could be a factor because of the couple's wills. Hackman left his $80 million estate to Betsy and did not name his children. Betsy left her estate to charity.
If Betsy passes away first and then Gene, his will, in a sense, would become void because the individual he wanted his items to be passed to no longer exists in the eyes of the law. His estate and everything he left in his will would go to probate court, where individuals can argue that they should receive the benefits of Gene Hackman's will.
Authorities say they will finalize the timeline very soon. Experts say it could determine where tens of millions of dollars end up going.
We have a male down over here, possible gunshot.
It was sometime after 2 a.m. when police officers found him lying in the backyard of a Lawndale apartment building, dead with a gunshot wound to the head, a 13-year-old boy, a student at Mason Elementary School.
Mom came into the police station around 2 a.m. this morning, saying her son was missing. Officers went back to the area where the mom said her son was missing. I guess a family member told the mom where her son was last seen.
Because no one called 911 to report the shooting, it is unclear how long the teen had been lying there. Until last September, when the city ended its contract with the gunshot detection company, the 1500 block of South Kildare was a ShotSpotter location, something alderperson Monique Scott repeatedly pointed out today.
Speaking with my commander, he was like, you know, if my officers had ShotSpotter, we could have located him sooner, but we didn't. And they went off of whatever information that they gathered to find this boy. We don't know if his life could have been saved.
Mourning the boy's loss is Krishawn Raspberry, who says the teen played touch football at the Park District just a block away from where he was found dead.
He's not a bad kid. You know, I try to get the kids in the area involved in as much as they can be in terms of sports. And I literally just wanted the best for him.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
President Trump today chairing his first board meeting at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. It comes after the controversial firings of some of the board members. The White House saying that the president wants to restore arts and culture.
President Trump at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., his first board meeting after appointing himself chairman.
He hopes to restore arts and culture that embrace American tradition, don't disparage it, as we have unfortunately seen.
Last month, Trump fired some members of the Kennedy Center's board of trustees, including the chairman, who Trump says did not share their vision for a golden age in arts and culture. Trump later naming Fox News Channel hosts Laura Ingraham and Maria Bartiromo to the board. There has been backlash. Vice President J.D. Vance at the center last week, sipping his wine to a chorus of boos from the audience. Some of the center's consultants have quit. Artists canceling shows, including a run of Hamilton planned for next year. The show's producer writing, quote, "We have sadly seen decades of Kennedy Center neutrality be destroyed." The center was started in the spirit of bipartisanship, established by President Eisenhower, a Republican who supported a bill written by Democrats wanting a national culture center. It was then named after President Kennedy, a Democrat, after his assassination. Kennedy led fundraising efforts for the center.
So we're going to spend a lot of effort, a lot of money on crime, and we're going to spend it on fixing up. We don't want graffitis on the beautiful white statuary marble.
Now, Trump has not had the best relationship with the Kennedy Center going all the way back to his first term. He had skipped the Kennedy Center Honors, the highest profile event for the center.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
So she's lifted her lamp by our Golden Shore for nearly a century and a half now. A French politician is calling on the U.S. to say bon voyage to the Statue of Liberty. Raphael Glucksmann says, "We gave it to you as a gift, but apparently you despise it, so it will be just fine here at home." The politician's request was apparently triggered by President Trump's position on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The French gifted the Statue of Liberty, as you know, to the U.S. back in 1884 and has become a beacon of freedom for all of us and all over the world ever since.
Good morning, Tanya and Tehran. Chicago police said they were patrolling the area when they found the teenager laying on the ground. Investigators say he had a gunshot to his head. This is what the scene looked like. This is near 15th Street in Kildare in the Lawndale neighborhood. This was around 2 o'clock in the morning when they found him. Police say they are still working to find out if that's where the shooting took place. They're also looking into what may have led up to all of this. And paramedics were called to the area to treat the teenager, and he was taken to Stroger Hospital, where he later died. Now, so far, no one has been taken into custody. This is still a very active investigation. If you have any information, please give police a call.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
Oh, whoa! More than 60 tornadoes have been reported across 8 states since Friday. In Tylertown, Mississippi, the tops of these trees snapped off, homes completely destroyed. Farther north, the town of Taylorsville hit by this twister.
Can you stand? You want to go back down?
And in Elliott, first responders rescuing survivors trapped under debris after this home collapsed. In Arkansas, a high-end EF3 tornado with winds of 165 miles per hour tore a path of destruction through Cave City.
This is my hometown, and just to see it the way it is just heartbreaking. It almost makes you want to cry.
A confirmed EF3 tornado in Bakersfield, Missouri as well. Homes and businesses in the area severely damaged. And a similar scene in Wayne County. This man helped rescue his aunt from her home.
She was trapped in that bedroom, only room standing left of this house. She was trapped in it. We got her out the window.
In Talladega County, Alabama, an EF2 tornado with winds up to 120 miles per hour tossing this empty school bus into the old Winterboro gym. Roof and many of the walls gone. Anita Owens' mother is one of at least 3 people who died in Alabama. Her daughter discovering the house was destroyed.
She called me back, and all she could say was, "Mama, her house is gone. It's leveled, and it's leveled."
And in Paulding County, Georgia, roads littered with fallen trees and power lines. The windows blown out of this man's home.
It sounded like a war zone. Stuff beating against the house. Wind was whipping through.
What's left of this weather system is now dumping heavy rains across parts of the Northeast, with wind advisories issued from Northern Virginia all the way up to Vermont.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
A $3.2 million match 6 lottery ticket was sold in Fayette County on Sunday. That ticket was sold at Pencraft Market, which is in East Millsboro. The winner has a year to claim that prize. We're learning about some new food options this season at PNC Park. Aramark unveiled 3 new menu offerings. First, the fried almond tort, which is funnel cake batter dipped, fried, and topped with raspberry sauce, icing, and burnt almonds. Then the Polish cannonball, which has egg noodles, kielbasa, cabbage, bacon, cheddar cheese, and herb crema dip. And the chipped ham empanada. This empanada is filled with barbecue chipped ham, cheddar cheese, and pickles. There will also be some new souvenir items like a popcorn bat, cotton candy mask, and a fastball souvenir cup. Pirates opening weekend begins Friday, April 4th, when they take on the New York Yankees in a 3-game series. The National Weather Service surveying more damage today in Fayette County just moments ago, saying the damage is consistent with an EF1 tornado. West Penn Power says most customers in Westmoreland and Fayette counties should have their power restored by 3 o'clock this afternoon. But in Uniontown, it's not expected to be restored until late tomorrow night. NWS confirmed 4 other tornadoes in our area that hit on Sunday. 3 of them were in Westmoreland County. 1 was in Indiana County. Donegal and Ligonier were hit by the same EF1 tornado.
We did have widespread damage with a lot of the area in multiple counties, but we're looking for like a distinct path and just some rotation convergence of like just the damage.
And Sky4 giving us a look at the damage in Indiana County, where some wooded areas were flattened. Fortunately, nobody was injured.
A man is being held in the Allegheny County Jail tonight accused of a carjacking in Homestead. Last night, officers responded to the intersection of Hayes Street and West Pine Way. Police said the victim, a delivery driver, was flagged down by 20-year-old Trayvon Jones, who then assaulted the man and stole the car. This morning, detectives found the stolen vehicle and Jones nearby. He is charged tonight with robbery and assault. Pittsburgh Regional Transit plans to... Also new tonight at 11, a man was flown to the hospital today after being hit by another driver on the highway. Police say the man was changing a flat tire on Route 22 in Smith Township, Washington County, when a 78-year-old woman hit him with her car. A medevac helicopter took the man to the hospital. Tonight, we're working to learn the victim's condition or whether the driver will be charged. State police are investigating.
Well, Mike, this adult male victim is in stable condition tonight after police say he was shot at least twice just across the street from me here on Brookline Boulevard at about 4:15 this afternoon. Now, police say he was already in stable condition as he was leaving in the ambulance for the hospital. That was thanks to the quick and good work of some bystanders.
I heard 3 loud pops. I thought it was, a bunch of these kids banging on my window, came out to investigate. As soon as I came outside of the building, seeing that there was a person down on the ground and my fight and flight, response kicked in. I went into the pizza shop next door, Antonio's, asked them for gloves so I could try to administer any first aid that I could.
Cesar Rivera joined an off-duty medic and firefighter in giving aid until EMS arrived. Police say the adult male victim is in stable condition. He was shot multiple times in the abdomen.
It's a tragedy about what happened, but on the bright side, the community came together as we should and, help save this person's life.
Police on the scene for about 2 hours. That crime scene taking over most of the block around the Brookline Boulevard and Flatbush Avenue intersection. Police say the suspects ran up Flatbush.
At least 2 suspects. They are believed to be juveniles.
The Brookline community says they're shocked and scared after a shooting in their downtown area at 4:15 in the afternoon as people were shopping and taking their afternoon stroll.
It's crazy because you don't really see this type of stuff in this type of neighborhood. I never seen this before. So I was very intrigued to see what was going on, but I'm like, wow, this is going on Brookline? Yeah, that's scary. It's pretty scary.
I ran a little bit, so I didn't know what was going on.
Do you feel safe walking home by yourself?
I don't really walk home by myself, but when I do, sometimes I do because I have a lot of friends here, but you never really know what could happen anymore here.
Police are still searching for those 2 teenage suspects tonight, and the violent crime unit is investigating the shooting altogether. Reporting live in Brookline, Felicity Taylor, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
Oh, the price of eggs. From the grocery stores to the bodegas, we've seen the true cost of the bird flu outbreak on our prices. It's hurting families. It's hurting businesses. We've seen the crazy prices for just an egg sandwich in the morning. We've also heard about how much more it's costing everyone who buys them, but we wanted to know why.
So we sent reporter Dan Krauth out to a farm to find out what's happening, if the prices will come down significantly anytime soon. So he joins us here with what you learned at a local farm.
He said egg sandwich, and my stomach started to rumble. First of all, I come bearing gifts, a dozen eggs from a local farm in New Jersey.
Gold
Oh
right
my
now,
God.
You can't say I never bought you anything.
This is like a box of chocolate truffles. It was like, wow.
$12.99, $9.99.
Oh my God.
These are actually $6.
Okay.
They're way below market value. It's crazy. I went grocery shopping last week. I needed 2 eggs, and I opened up each carton, and there was eggs missing from every carton. I don't know if you guys have experienced this in the store.
Are people
I think they're
nabbing
putting them in their
eggs?
pocket.
Sure they are.
Yeah, we're all going through it right now. But while the Justice Department is in the early stages of investigating the major egg producers over the prices, we went to a small farm to see why they're charging more and how long it will last. Life on the Norris Hill farm in Somerset County, New Jersey has never been easy.
It's tough.
But it's gotten even tougher for Debbie and her husband, Rich, 4th-generation farmers.
We do it for the love. We don't do it for the financial gain.
They have 900 acres of crops, animals, all kinds of animals. But it's the chickens that have become the hot commodity.
You're going in, you're trying not for the eggs to break. You don't want the eggs to crack. You don't want the eggs to break.
Everyone's valuable. Store prices for a dozen eggs have increased by more than 50% in just the past year. Are farmers making more since egg prices have gone up?
No, they really haven't. The costs for us have gone up for everything.
Farmers are charging more, but they're having to spend more. They have to replace each one of these chickens every 2 years, and the cost for a new one has tripled since the outbreak started.
They're going for $23 a bird compared to when they were just $6 a bird not too long ago.
That's a big increase.
It's a huge increase. The price of feed still hasn't come down.
Nationwide, more than 160 million birds have been killed to help contain the outbreak. Federal policy requires that once an outbreak is spotted, all of the farm's birds have to be euthanized. We mapped where that's happening, no part of the country untouched. The bigger the circle, the more birds wiped out. Luckily, it hasn't happened to the Norris family yet. But the chicken prices have affected all farmers.
All those birds that need to be replaced still have to grow.
It takes 5 months for new birds to lay eggs. With so many farmers looking to replace their flocks, they don't see prices coming down anytime soon.
Prices are not coming down. The birds are still scarce. So all of those pieces are going to remain high until everything can be replenished. And it could be up to 2 years.
That's why they're doing everything they can to keep the birds they do have healthy, with protective enclosures like this.
We're all trying to do our best. Please don't yell and think that we're trying to price gouge. We just have to make sure that, we're covering our costs.
Just don't yell, she says. The USDA claims that prices are starting to go down, but I haven't seen that yet at the grocery store. I don't know if you have. They're still what they were 2 months ago.
We were talking the other day. I mean, you have some chains that have kept their prices pretty much the same. Trader Joe's did a pretty good job of it. But you see other ones still $9, $10 as you're going out.
And the I try to buy the organic, free range. Those are even more expensive.
Oh, I can imagine. And what we do is we check the live auction prices for the new chickens, and they're still tripled the price.
So it's not going
I'm
down.
looking at that every day. Once those go down, I think we'll see it trickle down to the grocery store.
Dan, tell me the way you came back with so many great stories. Tell me how you know what color egg a chicken is going to lay.
Well, according to Farmer Debbie, she says that the color of the ear of the chicken is the color of the egg.
And does it matter? Does a brown egg taste differently from a white egg?
She says no, they don't.
They don't taste
To me, they do.
You're making that up.
I have to eat
Pedro.
brown
That's all in
eggs,
your head.
honestly.
These are delicious, but you know what? Easter's coming too, where prices tend to go
Oh,
up.
wow.
But no one wants to color these because they're difficult.
No,
to
you got to eat these things.
Make an omelet,
Go
Pedro.
home with me. Thank you.
Someone just saved about
Pedro's taking all the
7
brown
cents.
eggs.
Yeah, I just saved some money right here.
We're going to start with some breaking news right now. A search is happening at this point in Fayetteville. This is along the Cape River.
CBS 17's Harrison Grubb joins us live from the scene. And Harrison, what's happening out there? What have you been able to learn?
Yeah, this is still an active investigation. We're still working to get answers on exactly what has happened. Right now, the Fayetteville Fire Department has confirmed that they are assisting the police department in a search on the river. We're here near the Person Street Bridge along the Cape Fear River. We've seen boats head up the river as this search continues. As I mentioned, we're still working to get more information. We have seen a few SBI agents on the scene. A pretty large area of this boat ramp that we're standing at is taped off at this moment as well. As we continue to learn more information, we'll keep you updated both on air and online at CBS17.com. For now, live in Fayetteville, Harrison Grubb, CBS 17 News.
Harrison, thank you for that.
A jail drug bust. Tonight, a Wake County detention officer is accused of supplying contraband and selling drugs to inmates.
Yeah, Devin Williams is facing a long list of charges, and tonight he is being held on a $2 million bond. CBS 17's Mariah Ellis is live outside the Public Safety Center with that. Mariah.
Yeah, the Wake County Sheriff's Office tells us that Williams was actually working this morning here at this building just behind us at the detention facility. That's where they arrested him. They said this comes after an extensive investigation. The Wake County detention officer, 33-year-old Devin Williams, appearing before a judge Tuesday afternoon. Williams head down and with a phone in his hands.
Providing contraband to an inmate is a Class H, carries 39 months maximum.
The Wake County Sheriff's Office says they arrested Williams working during a shift at the detention facility connected to trafficking, possessing, and selling illegal drugs to inmates at the Wake County Detention Facility. A magistrate's order listing Williams' 6 felony charges that include trafficking of opium or heroin, providing contraband to an inmate, and possession of a controlled substance on jail property.
Would you like me to appoint you an attorney?
Not at the moment, sir. No, sir.
Court documents specifically note Williams was in possession of more than 28 grams of opioids, 57 grams of synthetic cannabinoids, 1.5 grams of fentanyl, and buprenorphine, a medication commonly known to support opioid withdrawal. Wake County Sheriff Willie Rowe later sharing in a statement saying, quote, "As soon as we were made aware of these allegations, we took immediate action and launched an investigation," adding, "We will not tolerate any conduct that compromises the safety of our community or the integrity of this office. We will continue to take all necessary steps to ensure the security of our facility."
Your bond is currently set at $2 million and no contact with any inmates of the Wake County Jail. Either side wish to be heard on the bond.
Our state would ask you to leave it where it is.
The Sheriff's Office says Williams has worked with the agency for 2 years. The 33-year-old currently held under a $2 million bond. Now, we also saw what appeared to be either friends or family of Williams who were also in that courtroom today. They left with tears in their eyes. Deputies say this is an ongoing investigation. And Raleigh, Mariah Ellis, CBS 17 News.
All right, Mariah, thank you. Well, new at 6 o'clock, we know the name of the victim in a deadly stabbing in Smithfield. Police say Eric Nelson killed Sandra Juarez. It happened yesterday at the Baymont Hotel off I-95. Investigators say they found Nelson in Virginia. He's charged with first-degree murder.
Right now, 2 women are recovering after police say each stabbed the other outside a Durham homeless shelter downtown earlier today.
CBS 17's Ben Boken is in Durham tonight, where witnesses say this all started as an argument.
Police investigators collecting evidence around the parking lot at Urban Ministries of Durham, where 2 women stabbed each other on Tuesday morning. The executive director of the shelter, Sheldon Mitchell, says the women got into an argument that turned violent.
We see our place as a place of hope, a place of healing for many in the community who are in crisis and in need. And to see what we'll say is a senseless act of violence happen between 2 community members is definitely unfortunate and very sad.
When officers showed up, they found 1 woman who had been stabbed. Then a 911 call led them to the second woman at a bus stop near the intersection of Main Street and Dillard Street.
I'm at the bus stop on 414 East Main. I got a stab wound to the back, conscious alert. Also, significant stab wound to the hand.
Durham police officers and forensics teams were at the scene here all day, focusing their investigation on a gold Dodge Durango that witnesses say belonged to one of the women. First responders took both women to hospitals, one with non-life-threatening injuries and the other with serious injuries.
According to security, there was another person that was here and been transported already.
Urban Ministries says the women are familiar faces, and the incident is a reminder of the need within the homeless community.
I think it just goes to stress the need to reach out and make sure we have resources to assist and serve this population.
Police are still investigating. In Durham, Ben Boken, CBS 17 News.
All new at 5 right now. The Durham County District Attorney says the shooting involving a Durham police officer in a Food Lion parking lot was justified. The report found an unknown object being thrown at the officer's vehicle, prompting a chase back in November. During the chase, the suspect fell and pointed a weapon at the officer. After refusing to drop the weapon, the officer shot the teen. The district attorney says the evidence from this investigation establishes that a reasonable officer in McQueen's position would believe that he was in danger of imminent deadly physical force.
Crews say they're switching to recovery mode for a 7-year-old boy in Franklin County.
Yeah, investigators say the child went missing in the Tar River behind Hodges Road. It happened around 5:30 last night. CBS 17's Baron James joins us live tonight. And Baron, the family says the boy was playing with a group of children before he fell into the river, right?
Right, Russ and Angela. In fact, not only was the little boy playing with other children, but there was also, I've learned from Franklin County Emergency Management, adults on the scene, including one man who jumped into the river to try to rescue the little boy some 23 and a half hours ago.
I'm just praying that they find him. Just can't wait to see his face again.
Shabardis Alston tells me she and her family are praying for a miracle for her 7-year-old cousin, missing after falling into the Tar River while playing with other kids Monday afternoon.
I've been holding my tears in. I'm trying to be strong for the family. It's hard, but we know God is still faithful. He's a miracle worker.
Unfortunately, I think we're more looking into a recovery operation at this point. We hope that it's still a rescue operation, but in reality, it's looking more like a recovery effort. But that's not lessening our passion to try and find closure.
Specialized dive teams are using underwater drones, sonar devices, as well as aerial drones and boats to really take a systematic approach to searching the murky water.
The current increases and makes it faster. It poses a hazard to not only the victims, like in this situation that caused all this to begin with, but our personnel working on the water.
The highly trained crews resumed the search on land as well as back in the river around 9 Tuesday morning with double the resources they had when they paused efforts Monday night. According to Franklin County Emergency Management, they spent 7 hours searching 300 yards in 12 to 15 feet deep, dark, and cold water.
We can't thank you enough. We appreciate every hour, every second, every minute that you all are working trying to find him, going to find him. I'm not going to say try because I believe you all are going to find him.
Emergency management plans to continue searching until 6 tonight and returning tomorrow morning around 8 o'clock with additional resources in this now recovery operation for that little boy. We're live in Franklinton. Baron James, CBS 17 News.
Certainly a very sad situation. All right,
An 82-year-old man connected to a 1979 murder in Moore County is now in custody.
And Moore County deputies, along with Maryland police, arrested Roger Brown at his home in the Pinehurst Trace community. Brown is charged in the death of Catherine Donahue. She was 31 when her body was found in a parking lot in Maryland. Brown, who lived in Maryland at the time of the murder, is facing first-degree murder and rape charges.
New at 6, DNA evidence is providing some answers in a cold case involving a man from Pontiac. Anthony Gully went missing back in 1994. Now, we now know remains found in Canton, Ohio in 2001 are his. Demond Fernandez is live in the newsroom with more on this case. Demond?
Yeah, investigators are calling this a bittersweet announcement, Karen, but some relief knowing the decades-long mission to identify Anthony Gully is now closed. It was during a press conference in Stark County, Ohio today that investigators revealed advancements in DNA technology, including investigative genetic genealogy, ultimately helped them identify the remains of Anthony Bernard Gully. He was a young father when he was reported missing in Pontiac back in 1994. Family members had grown worried when the 24-year-old at the time didn't show up for work. It was in December 2001 when skeletal remains were found in Canton Township, Ohio. Yet over the years, detectives still had challenges officially identifying the remains. 2 years ago, investigators were able to develop and release a clay facial recognition of Gully, and with help from the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, they were able to develop leads that ultimately helped identify Gully. Police say Anthony Gully was a homicide victim. He was shot in Pontiac. His remains were driven to Akron, Canton, Ohio area.
Mr. Gully was a homicide victim with a projectile wound that was determined to be from a bullet.
We used all the tools at our disposal on this one to crack the case: traditional detective work, facial reconstruction, DNA analysis.
Investigators say a nonprofit DNA Doe project also helped in this investigation. The sheriff also said Gully's family in Pontiac was also interviewed and instrumental and significantly helped in this investigation.
Severe Weather Awareness Week continues in Michigan, and while there are things that you and your family can do to prepare for severe weather at home, there's another place that is preparing for severe weather season as well. Forewarned meteorologist Brian Sherman has more on what students and teachers are doing this week to prepare for potential weather emergencies.
Michigan is no stranger to severe weather, especially tornadoes. 3 tornadoes touched down in Metro Detroit last year, and who can forget the EF3 Ingham-Livingston County tornado in 2023? That's why exercises like this.
There is a severe weather alert in your area. Please follow your severe weather procedure.
Are important for everyone.
And then we just have those conversations about when we're in class, we stand up, we don't worry about our Chromebooks, we don't worry about our chairs, we just exit the classroom and get into the hallway as quickly as possible.
Students and teachers at Barnes Elementary participated in their statewide tornado drill a few days early last week. But severe weather safety is embedded into the curriculum used in the classroom.
We do reports on extreme weather, so they're very interested in it, so they are very knowledgeable by 4th grade, especially with the weather opportunities. And it's a little bit scary, so that's why we talk about it.
And despite some students being a little scared, faculty and staff say it's important to train for emergency drills like tornado drills.
You could see how they shuffled them out really quick. The kids knew exactly what to do. Even some of our students that sometimes have a difficult time following directions, they knew exactly what to do because we've practiced it so much for them. Severe weather doesn't just happen here at school, but it can happen outside of school too, whether they're at home or in the mall or in a restaurant with their family, and they'll know exactly what to do should they be out in public somewhere or at home. They can take care of themselves and they can tell their families, this is what we've learned at school. This is how we can be safe.
When a tornado warning is issued, we tell you to go to the lowest floor of your home, such as a basement. If you don't have a basement, go to the interior-most portion of your home, such as a bathroom or interior closet. The same premise applies here in schools. We bring kids out of the classrooms into the hallways, keeping them away from windows, putting as many walls between them and the outside world as possible. The skills the students are practicing during the statewide tornado drill will keep them safe, whether they're here at school, and protect you and your family if severe weather develops when kids are at home. Practicing our severe weather safety skills at Barnes Elementary and Flat Rock, Wayne County. I'm forwarned meteorologist Brian Sherman, Local 4. All right, guys, here we go.
All right, thank you, Brian. We do want you and your family to feel prepared if severe weather hits. So make sure to join us Thursday night on Local 4 Plus for Severe Weather Awareness, the special. We are going to cover the first steps that you should take if your home is damaged in a storm. Also, tips to ease those anxious pets and how you can get involved in tracking severe weather. It's all streaming Thursday night at 8 on Local 4 Plus and clickondetroit.com.
Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
And we start with finally back on Earth, taking a live look here right now at the space capsule carrying NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore.
After more than 9 months on the International Space Station, the stranded crew just splashed down off the coast of Florida. It happened just 2 minutes ago. We're talking about just off the area off of Tallahassee. We're going to try to bring that video of that splashdown as soon as we're able to turn that around. But obviously just a momentous time these past few 10 to 12 minutes. I was just watching as it was progressing through the atmosphere.
Yeah, nothing anticlimactic about it. I mean, they were up there for more than 9 months. It was supposed to be, I believe, an 8 or 9 day mission. And some things went wrong. And so they had to basically stay up there for a lot longer than expected. So they were having helium leaks and thruster malfunctions. That's what happened with that original vessel that they were on. So NASA made that decision to essentially have them up there and be part of the crew for those 9 months so they could get them down safely, like we are witnessing right here. Here is that splashdown right before it happened. You see there's 4 parachutes there, and then bam, right there in the water.
And that's exactly what they wanted to happen.
That
because
is exactly what they
before
wanted.
it happens, they were explaining how at that orbit around the Earth, they're traveling at some 17,000 miles an hour. It is obviously a crazy fast speed where then it picks up more speed. And then the heat, when you enter the atmosphere, it gets up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was looking at the quote to-do list, and they said for them to put their iPads away, to strap their belts in, and to put the visors down, which I thought, that's interesting that they have to tell them to put their iPads away. But, you
follow the instructions. Okay, make sure your phone is in, airplane mode. You want to make sure it's in there.
Well, that's the undocking, that moment that happened too, because we were able to get some of that footage too, because
fascinating.
It really is. I just don't think you can ever get enough when you start, doing these stories about the space exploration. And also, like you said, Ty, some of the problems that they run into, you have to give these men and women credit for really being so versatile to be able to handle these problems.
As astronauts going up into space, they always know that anything could come their way as part of their training. I mean, when you're told it's going to be an 8-day mission, you know that anything could go wrong. I mean, you're going into space. There's so many things that can happen. And some of those things did happen. And of course, they had to stay up there a lot longer than that. But the good news today, they're back home safe. Now they have to do all the things they have to do now they've returned to Earth. I mean, when you're in space for 9 months, that's no
your
joke.
Body
there's a lot physically, and I'm sure emotionally and mentally too, that you've gone through. So we're going to be following them on that part of the journey.
Yes, starting our 6 o'clock with that live story. Access denied. The mom accused of abandoning her 3 children for years inside a Pontiac home has her phone access revoked. Now that comes after prosecutors say Kelly Bryant called the caregiver of her children some 20 times. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm Karen Drew, in for Kimberly Gill tonight.
And I'm Ty Steele. The judge's decision late this afternoon comes as Bryant sits in that Oakland County jail. So far, she's been unable to post that $50,000 cash bond. Let's go live now to Shante Passmore in Pontiac with the very latest. Good evening, Shante.
Yeah, good evening, Ty and Karen. The court hearing, very brief. The judge said she found it baffling that Kelly Bryant reportedly enlisted the help of other inmates to call the children's caregiver on her behalf. Now, tonight, she's setting the record straight on what she expects moving forward.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Kelly Marie Bryant. Should Kelly Bryant be allowed to communicate with the outside world? Oakland County prosecutors say not after she reportedly violated her bond. The court told the Pontiac mom to not contact her children and their caregiver. The 34-year-old, accused of abandoning her 3 kids, allegedly called her caregiver multiple times from jail. Bryant also reportedly enlisted some help.
Your Honor, my concern is twofold. First, that Ms. Bryant defied the court's order on 3/7/2025 with the no contact, but also is now circumventing Oakland County Jail's rules and having other inmates contact on her behalf.
However, Bryant's lawyer claims the mother remained unaware of not being able to call the caregiver. Her team claims neither they nor Bryant received a written copy of the court's bond order. The defense making it clear the mom did not inquire about the kids and ask for the judge to deny the motion.
I am telling the court that there's not going to be any other issues. There will not be any other issues. They can monitor her from now until eternity, and she will not violate the court's orders.
During the brief hearing, the judge said orders aren't suggestions. They need to be followed if there is another violation.
The court will schedule an emergency hearing within 24 hours of receiving notice of a violation.
The judge says now she believes both Bryant and her defense team understand the terms of the bond. Still, she feels the violation was very flagrant, and that is why she temporarily suspended the mother's communication privileges for 1 week. We're reporting live in Pontiac tonight. Shantae Passmore, Local 4.
All these circumstances, very shocking. Shantae, thanks. Now to the latest on the deadly situation in Trenton we told you about yesterday morning. We're told police found a man shot dead and a woman badly hurt during a welfare check at a house on Elmhurst Drive. Police believe this is a domestic situation, and a neighbor told us she often heard the two fighting.
A lot of aggression, and we did hear arguments.
Police did tell us they found several guns inside the home. Still unclear who shot the man. We will keep you updated as police investigate this. Tonight, a bold attempted car theft in Southfield leads to the arrest of 4 men. And this is shedding light on a possible organized auto theft ring. Thanks for being with us tonight at 11. I'm Ty Steele.
Good evening. I'm Karen Drew in for Kimberly Gill. Want to show you this. This is body camera footage that we were able to obtain just a few hours ago as the Southfield police released it, and it shows that exact moment. Police arrested 4 men. 2 have since been charged. We're talking about James Harris and Tyree Pitts.
Now, 2 others have also been arrested but are yet to face any charges. Police say this is yet another example of the ongoing battle against auto theft in the area. Pamela Osborne has more on these arrests and what comes next.
The Southfield police chief says car thefts have reached a crisis level in Southeast Michigan and the country at large. It's a multi-million-dollar industry, and in Southfield, he says, they're uniquely positioned and trained to respond. Take a look.
Someone just tried to break into my car, and I'm tired of this.
Where did this happen at?
I live on Berkshire Drive.
It was 3:30 Thursday morning when a Southfield woman noticed a strange man lurking around her Dodge Charger. She called 911.
Responding officers observed a suspect running from the location on foot to enter a white 2015 Mazda.
This is dashcam video of the chase, but it wasn't the only car police were after. A stolen green Ford Fusion seemed to be moving in unison with the Mazda.
The stolen Ford Fusion was the lead vehicle as the white 2015 Mazda followed from behind.
The Fusion stalled out in the chase. The people inside ran off. The people in the white car kept going until Southfield police used a pit maneuver to stop them.
Get out of the car with your hands up.
Inside, police found gloves and ski masks.
We believe is that this is a organized car theft ring. Certainly, when you look at the items that they choose to commit their crimes in.
Tyree Pitts was the 21-year-old behind the wheel of the Mazda. He and another man, 18-year-old James Harris, both from Ypsilanti, were arrested and charged. An 18-year-old from Atlanta and a 17-year-old from Detroit were also taken into custody. Chief Alvin Barron tells us there were no injuries, and that, he said, is due to training. They are well aware of the dangers that police chases cause to the greater public. So he says many of his officers are trained in these pit maneuvers, surveillance, other techniques so that they can either stop these guys before they start off on a chase or in that chase quickly. The two men I mentioned in my report are due back in court later this month. I'm Pamela Osborne, Local 4.
And there were so many houses that I did not like. And so when I finally found one that I liked and that we went to go see it, it felt really good.
27-year-old Skylar Williams was ready to close on her first home this month. That was until she received upsetting news from her mortgage broker that she was not approved for a $20,000 grant through the Federal Home Land Bank Welcome Home Program.
It was a little upsetting just because I'm so close to the end, like less than 2 weeks away, and now we don't know what it's going to look like.
Are you able to finish and purchase your home now?
Not unless I have that grant, no.
This is the new reality for many of Sebastian Starrood's clients after they received this letter Monday from FHLB of Cincinnati that reads, quote, "Unfortunately, your request has been denied for the reasons below. Funds are no longer available." Applications opened March 3rd, and Starrood says he received this email saying submissions could still be accepted until 5 p.m. March 4th.
Yesterday, they came out and said that pretty much anyone that submitted their application on Tuesday, which was still within their time frame, is now getting declined because they ran out of money.
Starrood wishes FHLB would have closed the application portal early if the funds were running low. Clients must be in contract and have income documents prepared in order to qualify. It's a grant opportunity Starrood says he's used for years to put his clients over the finish line, adding he's never had clients denied until now.
It's hard enough in the mortgage industry right now as is. For some home buyers, it's a problem with the economy right now. To see them be that excited and have a chance to buy, that's amazing. And then, 2 weeks later, ripping that away from them, it's sad. It's a problem.
Starrood hopes FHLB updates its Welcome Home Grant program to avoid false hope for home buyers next year.
The issue with that is that it's 2 weeks after people went into contracts. It's a problem. It's a huge fiasco.
I reached out to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati for a comment, and they sent me a statement saying, in part, quote, "The speed at which Welcome Home Program funds were used speaks to a real need for down payment assistance. In the 2025 Welcome Home Program offering, we anticipate we will fund more than $23 million in down payment assistance based on the requests. In Franklin County, we also offered $5.6 million in down payment assistance for first-generation home buyers in 2024. And to read that full statement, you can just head over to our website, 10tv.com.
Well, Grove City will soon help some people pay for their health insurance. Just last night, the City Council voted to approve money for insurance through a new program called Grove City Cares. Those eligible will have to make less than $30,000 a year. 10 TV's Tara Jabor joins us live now from Grove City. And Tara, you talked with council and residents today. What did the city, or why, I guess, the city wanted to start this program?
Colin, absolutely. I spoke to a member of Grove City City Council today who told me about a third of the people who live here in Grove City do not have insurance. Now, he wanted to change that, and now the city is stepping up to help those who are in need.
This effort started.
Ted Berry, a councilman for Grove City, says the more he talked to people in the community, the more he realized that healthcare is unaffordable for a lot of residents.
You go out to a restaurant, you're talking to people that are serving you, you're talking to people that are helping you landscape your yard, or you're just talking to people in going to the grocery store. These people don't have health insurance.
He met with the mayor over a year ago to talk ideas, and they found that two groups of people need health insurance the most: the elderly and those who are low income.
And those part-time jobs, as we know, don't pay for health care. There's senior citizens in our community that have the federal program, of course, and then they may have some savings, but there's that gap that where they can't afford medicines and things like that.
The city won't pay for all of the insurance. They will cover monthly payments for those on Medicaid and help pay for secondary insurance for the elderly.
People that are making that income, they're more worried about food, a place to stay, transportation, and those things. Healthcare is a secondary thing to them.
We spoke to people who live in Grove City today about the plan. Most people we spoke to say they support it.
That's a great idea. This year, one of my prescriptions went up, and I take 8 prescriptions. One of them cost over $400.
Health insurance should not be something that we have to worry about in a country that is supposed to be free.
It would be awesome. I mean, because I make under $30,000 and I have to buy my own medicine.
Barry says he hopes the program changes people's lives, but he knows that not everyone supports it. What would you say to people who live in Grove City that don't support this program and don't want to pay for other people's health insurance?
As a society, we come together and we try to help out each other and lift each other up.
Now, the city has not yet determined how much money they will allocate towards this program. They're forming a committee to figure that out. Reporting live in Grove City, Tara Jabor, 10 TV News.
New tonight in Health Source 10, a strong message from the Ohio Department of Health tonight to protect you and your family from the flu. The Ohio Director of Health says Ohio's flu numbers are declining, but we are not out of the woods yet. Now, take a look. This is the latest flu data. Right now, flu activity in Ohio is still in the very high category, but all the numbers are trending in the right direction, including hospitalizations, which dropped more than 25% from the previous week.
Now, ODH does not monitor all flu deaths, but they do when they are notified when a child dies of the flu. Today, we learned 3 children have died from the flu so far this season in Ohio. None of those children were from Central Ohio. Doctors are urging parents to take precautions in order to keep their kids healthy this season.
We encourage everyone to get an annual flu vaccine and to take this illness seriously.
And he says, in addition to getting vaccinated, there are 3 simple things you can do to keep yourself and others healthy. Stay at home if you're sick, for one. Now, cover your coughs and sneezes. Also, wash your hands.
And while America watches and hopes for a safe return for those astronauts, Ohio leaders are keeping a close eye on another development involving NASA.
And right now, Ohio leaders are lobbying to bring NASA's headquarters to the birthplace of aviation. 10 TV political reporter Doug Petcash shows us how they're using the power of persuasion in hopes of landing that deal for Ohio.
Whether it's going to the moon or exploring Mars, humans have long had a fascination with space. That goes for kids and Ohio leaders.
It's cool how they just blast off into space and go super fast.
From rockets to Mars rovers, kids are drawn to the space exhibit at COSI and just the idea of space.
All the planets and solar systems, and that you can go on rocket ships.
So many galaxies and planets that astronauts have never explored.
Ohio leaders are now exploring a possible connection with NASA.
What better place than to move back to the beginning of aviation?
The current lease for NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. expires in August of 2028. Ohio state and federal leaders are lobbying to make the birthplace of aviation the HQ's new home.
NASA Glenn is involved in all of the different 6 missions, both aeronautics and the space side of things.
Governor Mike DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel wrote a letter to President Trump urging him to locate NASA headquarters at NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland. 13 members of the Ohio congressional delegation sent a similar letter to Vice President J.D. Vance and the NASA Administrator Designate. Along with touting NASA Glenn, they're spotlighting Ohio's cost of living and running a business, the Air Force Research Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and Ohio's rich history in aeronautics and space travel.
You think about all the great folks who have been in space from Ohio. I don't know if anyone has the tradition that we have.
In this interview you'll see only on 10 TV, Tressel says the Ohio community and workforce would benefit.
The people that would be working at a facility like that are just outstanding people doing things that we need.
Just to be clear, this is all about NASA headquarters, not the launch pads.
No, we wouldn't be shooting off rockets, but we'd be testing things to make those rockets more efficient.
NASA says it took its orbiter mission about 7.5 months to get all the way to Mars. We'll see if it takes that long for a decision to be made about where NASA headquarters will be. At COSI, Doug Petcash, 10 TV News.
Well, new at 5, there's a bill in the Ohio House aimed at keeping children from viewing pornography online. It's House Bill 84, and it's known as the Innocence Act. That bill would require any person to verify their age to access pornographic websites. It would also make it illegal for anyone under the age of 18 to view them. Now, this bill was first introduced in 2023, but during a House committee today, the bill's sponsor says this is a bipartisan bill aimed at updating language already inside Ohio Revised Code.
Video rental stores, which are sort of a relic of the past now, but they had the same sort of age protection measures for minors that to make sure that they couldn't access this content in video rental stores. And we're simply taking that same piece of the ORC into the 21st century.
And right now, this bill is in the House Tech and Innovation Committee.
Hours ago, a federal judge ruled the dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development likely violated the Constitution. The ruling also blocked billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from making further cuts. U.S. District Judge in Maryland ordered the Trump administration to restore email and computer access to all employees of USAID, including those who were placed on administrative leave. The lawsuit singled out Musk as a defendant. Lawyers for USAID say employees and contractors had requested the order.
And it's great to be with you all. And it's great to talk about the importance of American dynamism and what our administration is going to do to support so many of the country's most groundbreaking and compelling companies. I know that you guys are working hard every single day, and I think it's pretty good news, right? That as of a couple of months ago, you have an administration that's working with you and facilitating your hard work instead of making it harder to innovate, which is, I think, what the last administration did. And let me put it simply. While this is a well-intentioned concern, I think it's based on a faulty premise. This idea that tech-forward people and the populists are somehow inevitably going to come to a loggerheads is wrong. I think the reality is that in any dynamic society, technology is going to advance, of course. So, while we remain the leader in technology and innovation, I think there are troubling signs on the horizon. And I raise all this to ask, does this sound like a regime, I'm speaking of China, that will pass up on the opportunity to use AI or any other technology to advance their own interests and further undermine the interests of their rivals? I think the answer is obvious, and that's why America, we've got to be tech forward. Yes, there are concerns, yes, there are risks, but we have to be leaning into the AI future with optimism and hope, because I think real technological innovation is going to make our country stronger. And so I'd ask my friends, both on the tech optimist side and on the populist side, not to see the failure of the logic of globalization as a failure of innovation. Indeed, I'd say that globalization's hunger for cheap labor is a problem precisely because it's been bad for innovation. Both our working people, our populists, and our innovators gathered here today have the same enemy. And the solution, I believe, is American innovation. Because in the long run, it's technology that increases the value of labor. The Trump administration's great plan for staging the great American manufacturing comeback is simple. You're making interesting new things here in America? Great. Then we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to slash regulations, we're going to reduce the cost of energy so that you can build. Our goal is to incentivize investment in our own borders, in our own businesses, our own workers, and our own innovation. We don't want people seeking cheap labor. We want them investing and building right here in the United States of America. There's a lot that we're excited about, and we certainly hope that you guys are excited too. But the fundamental premise, the fundamental goal of President Trump's economic policy is, I think, to undo 40 years of failed economic policy in this country. For far too long, we got addicted to cheap labor, both overseas and by importing it into our own country, and we got lazy. We overregulated our industries instead of supporting them. We overtaxed our innovators instead of making it easier for them to build their great companies. And we made it way too hard to build things and invest things in the United States of America. That stopped 2 months ago, and it will continue to stop, and will continue to fight for American workers and the American businesses that hire them and that support them.
Every opportunity I get to get the hell out of Washington, D.C. That is a good day. That is a good day. I want to thank Kelly Loeffler for that incredibly kind introduction. You know, Kelly is doing a great job at the Small Business Administration. You all would be shocked if you realized how much fraud we found even at the Small Business Administration. I'm talking about like dead people getting loans from the SBA. We don't want dead people getting loans from the SBA. We want American workers and American businesses getting loans from the Small Business Administration, and Kelly is doing a great job making sure that we do exactly that. I want to say thank you to Paul. It's great to be here at Vantage Plastics, a great American company with great American workers. So thank you to Paul Altman, and thank you to the entire team here at Vantage Plastics. It's great to be here. It's great to be with American workers. And again, like I said, it's great to be out of the bubble in Washington, D.C. Now, as Kelly mentioned, I was listening to her backstage. You know, we came in, we've got this great event, this great facility, great business, and of course, great workers. And I'm sure all of us saw there were a few protesters outside. And I can't be the only person wondering, you know, it's a little after noon on a Friday, and don't you all have jobs? Who are the people? And I think that's one of the reasons why we've got to rebuild American manufacturing and support great companies like Vantage Plastics, because we want those people to get off the streets and back to work. It'd be good for them, and it'd be good for everybody else too. This plant, this facility provides to American workers, I feel invigorated by the fact that you guys are dedicated to your communities, that you're working hard every single day, you're playing by the rules, and you're providing a good life for your families. And I feel invigorated that we finally have a president who is turning his back on 40 years of failed policy in Washington, D.C., and is getting back to investing in and fighting for the American worker. God bless you guys. Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
Brand new polling from NBC News. More registered voters say the United States is heading in the right direction than at any point since early 2004. Americans support President Trump's common sense approach that's getting our country back on track in record time. Meanwhile, the president's critics can't say the same. That same new NBC poll also found that the Democrat Party has reached an all-time low in popularity. It turns out when you let your hatred of President Trump get in the way of doing what is best for America, the people reject you. Who would have thought? A larger ecosystem, Nexstar, which is home to News Nation, the political website The Hill, the broadcast network The CW, and local Nexstar stations. With that, kick us off, please, Kelly.
Thank you, Caroline. What do you say to Americans who want safe streets but are concerned due process is being violated?
The president is using every lever of his executive authority and his constitutional authority within the bounds of the immigration laws of our country to ensure that our streets are safer for law-abiding American citizens. And this administration is focused on detaining, arresting, and deporting illegal criminal aliens. And as you saw this past weekend, the president used his authority under the Alien Enemies Act to deport foreign terrorists. Tren de Aragua is now a designated foreign terrorist organization. And as I said, there were nearly 200 Tren de Aragua members who were sent to El Salvador this weekend. Countless lives will be saved because of this action. And if you talk to the families, the Angel families, as I mentioned, Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungray, they understand the grave cost of life at the hands of these illegal terrorists. And the president is proud to deliver on that promise for them.
And just to follow up on that, this will be challenged later today in the courts. Does the president, does this allow him to defy the court order without having this the checks and balances and the separation of power?
No, in fact, this administration acted within the confines of the law, again, within the president's constitutional authority and under the authority granted to him under the Alien Enemies Act. We are quite confident in that, and we are wholly confident that we are going to win this case in court. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. If you guys can't send 200 Tren de Aragua terrorists at a time to El Salvador, where are you going to send them instead?
It's a very good question. You'd have to ask the courts and the people on the left who are trying to fight this administration for doing the business that this president sought out to do, which is to deport these foreign terrorists. And we're very grateful to President Bukele and to El Salvador for accepting these heinous monsters where they will face justice.
And if these guys are terrorists at war with the United States, is President Trump considering anything more lethal to address them than just sticking them on a plane somewhere else?
Well, it sounded like you had a little bit of curiosity in the premise of your question, so I want to address it. These are designated foreign terrorists. The president signed a proclamation on February 20th, 2025, designating TDA as a foreign terrorist organization that was in consultation with the Attorney General and the Secretary of Treasury. That was pursuant to 8 U.S. Code 1189. The president has the right to do that. And I think nobody would argue that Tren de Aragua should be designated a foreign terrorist organization. If you want to have that argument, I'm happy to do it. These are heinous monsters, rapists, murderers, kidnappers, sexual assaulters, predators who have no right to be in this country, and they must be held accountable.
And something different. There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country. Kelly.
Is the administration prepared to give the court what it wants in terms of the time of the flights that departed, that went to El Salvador, and some of those details that the judge is asking for in trying to determine the timing? Clearly, the 5 named individuals were not deported in compliance, but looking more broadly, wanting to know about the timing of flights and so forth, because the verbal order did say turn around the flights if there's an issue. So is the administration prepared to provide that information?
I'm prepared to provide it right now. All of the planes that were subject to the written order, the judge's written order, took off before the order was entered in the courtroom on Saturday. And the administration will, of course, be happily answering all of those questions that the judge poses in court later today.
And for people who have due process questions about making certain that there wasn't anyone who was swept up who did not meet the criteria that you laid out, is there a way for the administration to provide more detail about how that was determined, who the individuals were that met this deportation order?
Yes, I can assure the American people that Customs and Border Patrol and ICE and the Department of Homeland Security are sure about the identities of the individuals who were on these planes and the threat that they pose to our homeland. They take this incredibly seriously. They are putting